Chapter 1237. The eyes of the inner demons flickered. The Valley Master was perturbed. The inner demons couldn't make up his mind, and secretly asked, "Deity, what do you think? Keep him." The inner world was silent for a moment, and Qin Fei Yang's voice sounded. "Okay." The inner demons responded, looked at the Valley Master, and said lightly, "You want to follow me? Sure, destroy your own cultivation first. Destroy your own cultivation." The Valley Master's eyes trembled. What if he destroyed his own cultivation and the other party went back on his word? At that time, he would become a fish on the chopping board, at the mercy of others. "Do you have a choice?" The inner demon sneered. The Valley Master struggled for a moment, then suddenly raised his arm and slapped his lower abdomen, accompanied by a mouthful of blood. His face suddenly became pale. "I'll leave the waste sea, is it okay now?" He looked at the inner demons and said. The inner demons smiled coldly, went up and took away the Valley Master's Qianquan bag, and then sent the Valley Master to the castle. Immediately. The inner demons looked at the crowd around and shouted, "The Imperial Tutor will be here soon, you all go back to the village immediately, take the people in the village and find a secret place to hide." "Is the Imperial Tutor very strong?" someone asked. "Of course he's very strong, he's a god." The inner demons didn't want to waste time and directly stated the seriousness of the problem. "God." Everyone's heart trembled. "As for the blood-soul technique, you don't have to worry, the Valley Master has been subdued, he won't hurt you anymore. Go now." The inner demons shouted. "Thank you, little brother." Everyone looked at Qin Fei Yang gratefully, then turned and rushed toward the exit. The inner demons glanced at the immortal crane in the crowd, and a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. He took out the white-eyed wolf and chased after the second Valley Master. Exit. The dozen or so 9-star combat emperors gathered together and looked at the void in the distance, their eyes full of suspicion. What a terrifying murderous aura, who is fighting with the Valley Master? Could it be that Qin Fei Yang? That shouldn't be the case. That Qin Fei Yang is only a 1-star combat emperor. How could he be a match for Valley Master and the others? Because they were too far away, they could only sense the terrifying fluctuations of the battle. They couldn't see the battlefield with their own eyes. Whoosh! Suddenly, accompanied by the sound of the air being torn apart, figures flashed over like lightning. What's the situation? Looking at the mighty crowd, the 9-star combat emperors were even more bewildered. "Everyone, the Grand Valley Master has been subdued by Qin Fei Yang. Let's leave this place quickly." A black-clothed old man at the front roared as he looked at the dozen 9-star combat emperors. "What? The Grand Valley Master has been subdued?" The dozen or so people were dumbstruck. They were 9-star combat emperors and they knew the Grand Valley Master's power better than anyone else. It was not an exaggeration to say that even without the restriction of the blood-spirit technique, they were not a match for the Grand Valley Master. How could they be subdued by a mere 1-star combat emperor? Whoosh! The black-clothed old man was also an 8-star combat emperor. He landed in front of the dozen or so 9-star combat emperors and said in a deep voice, "I know you can't believe it, but this is the truth. Hurry up. It's the truth." The dozen or so people were shocked. An old woman asked, "What about the second Valley Master?" "Qin Fei Yang is chasing after him." Qin Fei Yang also said that the Grand Master will be here soon. He asked us to hurry back to the village and find a place to hide with the villagers. The black-clothed old man said. "He has really been subdued." The dozen or so people still couldn't believe it. "We saw it with our own eyes. It's absolutely true," the black-clothed old man said. The others nodded their heads. "Huh." The dozen or so 9-star combat emperors looked at each other and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Their eyes were filled with tears. They were happy and excited. They had finally escaped from the clutches of the devil and regained their freedom. Let's go quickly. The Grand Master is a divine being. It'll be too late if we don't leave now. Master Shen couldn't help but urge them. Let's go. The dozen or so 9-star combat emperors waved their hands and immediately turned around and rushed down the stone stairs to the outside of the ice valley. Back to the second valley master. At this moment, he was hiding in an abandoned cave with an image crystal in his hand. He was like an ant on a hot pan as he walked back and forth anxiously. Buzz. Finally, the image crystal shone brightly and the image of a white-haired old man appeared. Who else could it be but the Grand Master? What's wrong? The Grand Master looked at the second valley master with a smile and asked. He seemed to be in a good mood. Something bad has happened. The second valley master shouted. The Grand Master raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang is too scary. His cultivation suddenly became an 8-star combat emperor. The Grand Valley Master might have been killed by him. The second Valley Master shouted and his face was full of fear. What? The Grand Master's expression changed and he said angrily, why didn't you inform me earlier? Haven't I been informing you? You didn't reply to me. I've been waiting for a long time. The second Valley Master felt wronged. Damn it. The Grand Master was furious. That's right. He's been waiting for a long time. Why did you only reply now? Could it be that Zhuge Mingyang was at the critical moment of his breakthrough? A mocking voice was heard. Then, the inner demons and the Wolf King walked into the cave one after another. How did you know I was here? The second Valley Master looked at the man and the wolf in fear. The inner demons didn't care about him. He raised his head and looked at the Grand Master. He laughed and said, in order to protect Zhuge Mingyang, you didn't even care about your subordinates here. I'm really curious. What's your relationship with him? Qin Feiyang, I won't let you go. Zhuge Mingyang suddenly appeared beside the Grand Master. He stared at Qin Feiyang and said. I was wondering who it was. So it's someone who lost to me. Not bad. You've already broken through. However, you better not be arrogant in front of me. If I could make you kneel down back then, I can do the same now. The inner demons made a weird sound and mocked. Zhuge Mingyang's aura had a trace of Emperor's aura. It was enough to show that he had successfully broken through and became a 1-star combat emperor. Hearing the inner demon's words, Zhuge Mingyang's face was extremely gloomy. That battle in the Bright Sky Palace was the biggest stain in his life. Because of that, he became a joke in the imperial city. He didn't know how many people were talking about him behind his back. One had to know. He was once the #1 evildoer in the imperial city. To him, it was simply torture. It made him wish he was dead. All these years, he had been trying hard to forget about it. However, he couldn't get rid of it. It was like a nightmare that haunted him. So, he hated Qin Feiyang. He especially hated Qin Feiyang. Because the moment Qin Feiyang was born, he took away his title as the #1 evildoer. Later on, he killed his own brother, the first prince. Later on, he caused his reputation to be ruined. As for Qin Feiyang, he wanted nothing more than to tear him into pieces and burn his bones to ashes. The inner demons smiled playfully. Looking at Zhuge Mingyang, he continued, actually, it's really hard on you. Your talent is obviously not that good, but you still want to surpass me. If you don't have the potential pill, what are you? Zhuge Mingyang roared. Why does it sound so funny coming from your mouth? Don't you understand that luck and opportunity are also part of one's strength? Don't talk about me. If I'm not wrong, you should be taking the blood demon pill right now, right? But what's the result? Right now, I can even kill a 9-star combat emperor if I want to. But right now, you can only dominate the one-star combat emperor. This is the gap between us. Therefore, one must know one's own limits. Otherwise, one will become a joke in the eyes of the world. The inner demons smiled faintly, his face full of disdain. Zhuge Mingyang's face was as gloomy as water. His hands were tightly clenched together, making cracking sounds. These words could be said to have degraded him to the point that he was useless. The imperial tutor turned his head to look at Zhuge Mingyang and said in a low voice, "Don't be fooled by him. He's purposely destroying your confidence. With your talent and ability, as long as you maintain a good attitude, you will surpass him sooner or later." Zhuge Mingyang nodded and let out a long breath. The imperial tutor turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and said, "If you have the ability, stay there and don't leave." After saying that, the shadow disappeared. "Don't kill me," the second valley master panicked. He waved his hands and begged for mercy as he retreated to the corner. The inner demons chuckled. With a bloodthirsty smile, he walked towards him step by step. Very soon, the second valley master retreated to the stone wall. There was no way out. Plop. He knelt on the ground in panic and begged, "I was forced to do these things for the imperial tutor. I beg you, please let me live." The inner demons laughed. "When you were refining the blood demon pill, did you ever think of letting them go? I was wrong. I swear, I will never refine the blood demon pill again." Second valley master kept kowtowing. Peng peng, the skin on his forehead was broken. The inner demons chuckled, "Do you regret it? Unfortunately, there's no medicine for regret in this world. Don't go too far." The second valley master roared. His legs kicked hard and like a sharp arrow, he pounced towards the Wolf King. The inner demons chuckled. He raised his hand and slapped the second valley master's head. The second valley master's head exploded and blood spurted out like an arrow. With a bang, the second valley master laid on the ground. He hugged his head and cried out in pain. "I beg you, I know I was wrong, please be merciful and take pity on me. I can be your cow or horse, I also know about the imperial tutor's plot, I'll tell you everything," he shouted anxiously, his face full of despair. The inner demons laughed. "I'm sorry, the head valley master will answer these questions." "What? You didn't kill the head valley master?" The second valley master's eyes trembled. "Yes." The inner demons nodded. "Damn it. If I knew, I wouldn't have escaped." The second valley master was filled with regret. He thought that he could survive if he escaped. But he didn't expect that the head valley master who didn't escape would survive. At this moment, he regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. Because at that time, the head valley master asked him to hold back Qin Feiyang. If he had listened to the head valley master, he would be the one who survived. But he had given this chance to live to the head valley master. "I was so stupid." The second valley master roared unwillingly. "You were really stupid. Otherwise, the head valley master would be dead now." The inner demons laughed mockingly. He waved his hand and Chang Shui appeared. Poof! In a flash, the second valley master's head immediately fell to the ground. Blood spurted out from the bull-sized wound on his neck. "People like you deserve to die." Chapter 1238. After leaving the cave, the inner demons stood high in the sky, glanced at the surrounding mountains, and flew towards the exit. Along the way, other than the beasts, they did not meet anyone. Boom! Suddenly, the inner demons released the Emperor's aura, destroying everything in all directions. Blood gathered into a river and flowed into his glabella. "What do you want to do?" Wolf King looked at him in surprise. "Don't meddle in my business. Go to the castle and stay there." The inner demons glanced at it coldly and sent it to the castle. Inhumane. Wolf King cursed angrily. When it needed its help, it was easy to say anything. Once it helped, it immediately turned hostile. Boom! A moment later, the aura of the inner demons suddenly soared to that of a 9-star combat emperor. Murderous aura lingered around his body, like a god of death. The kill formula can be superimposed by a realm. Then, can it be superimposed to the war god realm now? The inner demons muttered, and his eyes flickered with blood. His current cultivation was a 1-star combat emperor. If it was the same as before, the kill formula could be superimposed by a realm, then his cultivation could directly break through to the war god realm. If it was really possible, then it would be easy to kill the imperial tutor. The kill formula was fully activated. The inner demons crazily absorbed the blood. The kill formula between his eyebrows shone with a bloody light, emitting a monstrous killing intent. All the beasts in the underground world felt this killing intent. They crawled on the ground, trembling, and their fierce eyes were filled with fear. Soon, his cultivation had been superimposed to the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm, and he was only 1 step away from the false god realm. But this step was like an insurmountable chasm, and he could not break through. Can't it? But it doesn't make sense. The kill formula is a divine art, and it's not a low-level divine art. It should be able to do it. The inner demons frowned. Suddenly, he smiled bitterly. A divine art required divine power to unleash its full power. And now, what was flowing in his body was battle chi. It was impossible to surpass the war god realm with battle chi alone. In other words, before condensing divine power, the kill character art's peak 9-star combat emperor realm was already the limit. The peak of the 9-star war emperor realm, the inner demons muttered. All of a sudden, he raised his head and looked in the direction of the entrance, his eyes flashing with a hint of madness. Whoosh! Following closely, he transformed into a divine rainbow, streaked across the sky like a bolt of lightning, and disappeared into the horizon. The people of the underground world had already escaped. The people guarding outside the ice gorge had already fled with everyone else because they were also from the village. At this moment, the ice valley had fallen into a deathly silence. Whoosh! Suddenly, a white-haired old man descended from the sky and landed on top of the ice valley. It was the imperial tutor. Scanning the empty ice valley, the imperial tutor could not help but clench his fists. His expression was extremely ugly. He silently walked through the void of space. A short while later, he arrived in the air above the entrance. Seeing that the entrance was wide open, an uneasy feeling rose in his heart. Whoosh! He turned into a streak of light and flew into the entrance. Not long after the Grand Master entered, the inner demons appeared out of thin air. The Grand Master's divine will could find the ancient castle. Therefore, in order to avoid being found by the Grand Master's divine will, he immediately left the ice valley after coming out of the underground world and hid in the mountains outside. And when he saw the Grand Master enter the ice valley, he followed again. At this moment, he stood in the air above the entrance and looked down at the entrance below. His eyes flashed with a shocking light. Damned little bastard, I will definitely not let you off, not long after. The Grand Master's angry roar came from the entrance. Ha! The inner demons grinned, raised his arm, and pointed at the sky. In the sky, the wind and clouds surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Rays of purple gold divine light fell, illuminating all directions. Boom! In the next moment, accompanied by a loud noise that shook the heavens, a statue appeared in the sky, blooming with bright divine light. That's right. This was the third move of the divine dragon art, the supremacy of 9 and 5. The Grand Master's aura was also rapidly approaching the entrance. It was obvious that he had also sensed the aura of the divine dragon art. I want to see how much difference there is between us now. The inner demons muttered. That's right. He stayed here purely to test the difference between a 9-star combat emperor and a false god. Of course. If there was a chance to kill the Grand Master, that would be the best. Finally, the Grand Master rushed out of the entrance. Kill! The inner demons immediately shouted. The statue immediately raised the broken sword in his hand and slashed at the Grand Master. That terrifying edge was earth-shattering. The Grand Master was shocked. He raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang and the statue. His eyes were suddenly filled with killing intent. You actually dare to stay here. He admired Qin Feiyang's courage from the bottom of his heart. But at the same time, his desire to kill Qin Feiyang was unprecedentedly strong. Boom! His figure shuddered as a formidable force of the false god realm burst out from his body like a tide. Clang! Boom! In an instant, the broken sword and the power of the false god clashed in the air. A wave of destructive air immediately appeared out of nowhere and surged in all directions. The ice valley collapsed in an instant. The inner demon spat out purple-gold dragon blood as he retreated. His eyes were filled with horror. Originally, he thought that even if the third style of the dragon god technique could not defeat the Grand Master, it could at least cause some damage to him. However, the result was far beyond his expectations. The broken sword and the statue were crushed into pieces by the Grand Master's false god power. Not to mention causing damage to the Grand Master, not even a strand of his hair was hurt. One had to know. The Grand Master had not used his divine technique yet, but he had broken his divine technique so effortlessly. They were not at the same level at all. Was the difference between a false god and a 9-star combat emperor so big? A mere ant dares to challenge a fake god. You are truly audacious. Now, I will let you know how ridiculous you are. The Grand Master smiled contemptuously. He took a step forward and landed in front of the inner demons. So fast. The inner demon's pupils contracted. The Grand Master's current speed was less than 1/10 of his phantom steps. Although there is only one step between a 9-star combat emperor and a false god, there is a world of difference between their senses. Now, I'd like to see who can save you. The Imperial Preceptor smiled sinisterly and slapped the inner demon's head. The inner demon's expression changed drastically. Without hesitation, he entered the ancient castle and drove it away without looking back. Even if you hide in the ancient castle, it won't help. The Grand Master was completely furious. Divine thought emerged and covered all directions. He instantly captured the ancient castle's trajectory. What about me? Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Whoosh! Before the voice had died away, a middle-aged man in black appeared in the void above. It's you. The Grand Master's expression changed. Yes, it's me. The middle-aged man smiled coldly. A wisp of divine thought swept out from the top of his head. It carried a monstrous divine power and attacked the Grand Master. Damn it! The Grand Master's face darkened. He quickly retreated and then waved his hand. The ground below suddenly shook violently. Crack! Boom! The next moment, the ground cracked and a stone tower rushed out from the ground. The stone tower was thousands of feet tall. It was dark and shabby. It exuded a strong ancient aura. Is this the underground world? In the ancient castle, the inner demons looked at the stone tower in the image. His eyes were full of surprise. At the same time, the middle-aged man stared at the stone tower. His eyes were full of greed. He said, I want this space divine item. As soon as he finished speaking, the wisp of divine thought that had attacked the Grand Master immediately turned in the air and pounced on the stone tower. You don't have this ability. The Grand Master shouted. A ray of divine light swept out from his body. It was a palm-sized jade pendant. It shone with a dazzling divine light. The inner demons had seen this jade pendant before. It was the jade pendant that appeared when he fought with Renduxing in the Magic Dragon Mountains. Revive! The Grand Master roared. The power of the false god rushed into the jade pendant. A mighty divine aura immediately rolled out from the jade pendant. Then, the jade pendant blasted toward the wisp of divine thought. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two collided. A terrifying divine aura rushed out in all directions. The land within 1,000 miles was instantly razed to the ground. I'm so envious. The inner demons looked at the two people in the image with a yearning expression. If he also had the cultivation of a false god, a mere Grand Master would be nothing to him. Although he was in the center of the battlefield, he was inside the ancient castle. With the protection of the ancient castle, he was not much of a threat to him. While the two of them were fighting, the ancient tower quickly shrank. In the end, it turned into a ray of light and disappeared between the Grand Master's eyebrows. Damn it! The middle-aged man's face darkened. Just you wait. I'll make you pay for this sooner or later. The Grand Master glared at the middle-aged man in front of him. Then, he turned around and fled without looking back. You naturally included Qin Feiyang. The middle-aged man chased after him. However, after a few steps, he stopped and turned his head to look at the void where the ancient castle was. Whoosh! The inner demons appeared in the void. He looked at the middle-aged man and sneered. I didn't expect you to be here. There are many things that you can't imagine. The middle-aged man said. Is that so? But now, there's a problem that I'm very conflicted about. Should I call you Mu Tianyang or Uncle Ren? The inner demons laughed. Yes. This person was Renduxing. Renduxing laughed. I'm very happy to hear you call me uncle. Hee hee, the inner demons smiled and said, don't tell me that it's a coincidence that you're here. What do you think? Renduxing asked. Without waiting for the inner demon's reply, he flew toward the north. The inner demons raised his eyebrows. Wasn't the direction that Renduxing was going in the direction of that village? Where are you going? The inner demon's eyes flashed. He quickly chased after him and asked. That village. Renduxing said. You know. The inner demons was stunned. Renduxing said, I discovered that village before you. Of course I know. No, it should be said that Lu Xingqian discovered it before you. Lu Xingqian discovered it before me. Chapter 1239. Before the inner demons finished speaking, Qin Feiyang left the inner world and appeared beside them. Seeing another Qin Feiyang appear, Renduxing wasn't surprised at all. He looked at Qin Feiyang's real body and said, you can even control the inner demons, amazing. You know. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Renduxing said, there's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Qin Feiyang looked at him coldly and asked, you just said that Lu Xingqian knew about the village before us? Renduxing nodded. Qin Feiyang said, so, all of this is Lu Xingqian's plan? Yes. On the surface, he asked you to go to the Sea of Reincarnation, but in fact, he asked you to go to the village and destroy the force cultivated by the Imperial Master. Renduxing said. So that's how it is. The inner demon was enlightened and sneered, that means you're here for that ancient pagoda. Renduxing was silent. You've done everything you can, but what's the result? Isn't it all in vain? The inner demons looked at him disdainfully. If it weren't for the fact that I consumed a lot of my divine sense in the Magic Dragon Mountains, the ancient tower would be in my hands now. Renduxing stared at the two of them angrily. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Humph. Renduxing snorted through his nose and continued to fly back to the village. Be careful, he must have some purpose in going to the village. Qin Feiyang secretly warned the inner demons and returned to the inner world. The inner demons looked at Ren Duxing's back with flickering eyes. Suddenly, he took out a portal and walked in. Sensing that the aura of the inner demon had disappeared, Ren Duxing immediately turned his head to look. His brows furrowed slightly at once, and then he also opened a teleportation portal and went in. Swish! Above the village, the inner demons and Ren Duxing appeared one after another. However, there was not a single person in the huge village. Where is he? Ren Duxing glanced at the village, then turned to the inner demons and asked. The inner demons shook his head and said, I don't know. I'm also wondering why they're all gone. Ren Duxing said, don't play dumb. Their disappearance must have something to do with you. The inner demon said, judging from your tone, did you come to the village for those villagers? How can a bunch of ants enter my eyes? Ren Duxing was disdainful. Then what are you doing here? The inner demons were curious. Ren Duxing lowered his head and looked at the ancestral grave in the middle of the village. Seeing this, the inner demon's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that this Ren Duxing had also developed an interest in the ancestral grave? Whoosh! Suddenly, Ren Duxing turned into a stream of light and swooped down toward the ancestral grave. The inner demons hurriedly chased after him. There must be something hidden in the ancestral grave. They could not let Ren Duxing have his way. Whoosh! Both of them landed in front of the ancestral grave almost at the same time. Ren Duxing looked at the name on the tombstone and his eyes flickered. The inner demons stared at him intently. But suddenly, Ren Duxing raised his head and looked at the void in the distance. His eyes flashed. Before the inner demons could react, he grabbed the inner demons and rushed into a nearby house and stood in front of a window. What are you doing? The inner demons said angrily. Shoo! Ren Duxing made a gesture to keep quiet. At the same time, a wisp of divine consciousness emerged and formed a shield, wrapping the two of them inside. What's this? The inner demons raised his eyebrows. Ren Duxing said telepathically, this shield can block the detection of divine consciousness. The inner demons looked at the shield in surprise and followed Ren Duxing's gaze. Soon, a white figure came from the void in the distance like lightning. He really came. The inner demon's pupils shrank. It was the state preceptor. Don't make a sound. Ren Duxing said secretly, restraining his aura to the extreme. The inner demons also quickly restrained their murderous aura. Whoosh! After a few breaths, the state preceptor landed in the sky above the village and glanced at the empty village. He raised his eyebrows slightly. Boom! Following closely, a divine consciousness emerged and instantly enveloped the entire village. A trace of hostility flashed in the state preceptor's eyes and then he also landed in front of the ancestral grave. What does he want to do? The inner demons was secretly shocked. Does he know what's in the grave? Ren Duxing asked telepathically. What's in it? The inner demons was puzzled. I'm not sure either. Although Lu Xingchen has been here before, it's my first time here. According to Lu Xingchen, there's a seal in the grave. And this seal was set up by the state preceptor. Ren Duxing said secretly. Seal. The inner demon's eyes narrowed and said secretly, then why didn't Lu Xingchen break the seal here? With his ability, he should be able to do it. He didn't want to alert the enemy. Because once the seal is broken, the state preceptor will immediately know. Ren Duxing said telepathically. The inner demons said in realization, so that's why you came to the village. Checking the things in the grave is just one of the reasons. My main purpose is to ambush here and snatch the ancient pagoda. Ren Duxing didn't hide anything. Is the ancient pagoda important? Why do you insist on getting it? The inner demons was doubtful. It's very important. Because the original owner of the ancient pagoda is me. Ren Duxing's eyes flashed coldly. What? The inner demons was shocked. This was really beyond his expectations. Back then, after I was sealed by your ancestor, this ancient pagoda was left in the human world. But I didn't expect it to fall into the hands of the state preceptor. And I didn't expect him to do such a wicked thing with the ancient pagoda. Ren Duxing snorted coldly. Wicked? The inner demons was slightly stunned and said secretly, are you talking about him refining the blood demon pill and secretly cultivating his forces? That's right. Ren Duxing nodded. You're funny. What's the difference between a cruel king like you and him? The inner demon sneered. In terms of evil, the state preceptor was probably less than 1% of this person. Ren Duxing snorted coldly and said, I've done a lot of evil, but I also have a bottom line. I will never touch the blood demon pill. The inner demons laughed and said, there's a question that I can't figure out. Since the ancient pagoda is a spatial divine item, why doesn't the state preceptor carry it with him? Because he's afraid of being discovered. After all, he's not the only false god in the imperial city. Ren Duxing said. I see. The inner demons nodded. False gods could already capture spatial divine items. And there were indeed many false gods in the imperial city, especially Old Man Qin. He had long been suspicious of the state preceptor. If the state preceptor carried the ancient pagoda with him, he might really be discovered after a long time. Ren Duxing looked at the back of the state preceptor, and his eyes flashed. He said telepathically, Qin Feiyang, how about we cooperate? How? The inner demons was taken aback and asked secretly. Ren Duxing said, you help me get the ancient pagoda, and the things in the tomb will belong to you. The inner demons laughed and said, you think too highly of me. With my strength, how can I help you? I don't need you to accompany me to fight the state preceptor. I just need you to take me and get close to him without him knowing. As long as I get close to him, I can kill him with a single blow. Ren Duxing said telepathically. Sorry, there's nothing I can do. The inner demons shook his head. You, Ren Duxing looked at him angrily and said, don't you have a technique that can make you invisible? Who told you that? The inner demons frowned. Mu Qing. He wouldn't lie to me. Ren Duxing said in a deep voice. The inner demon said, I have a technique that can make me invisible, but this technique can only be activated once a day. I have already activated it today. This sentence did not lie to Ren Duxing. When he assassinated the Valley Master, he did activate the concealment technique. But Ren Duxing might not believe it. Really? He looked at the inner demons doubtfully. Believe it or not. The inner demons did not bother to pay attention to him. He raised his head and looked at the state preceptor through the window. Ren Duxing looked at the inner demons and frowned. Boom! Suddenly, the state preceptor, who was standing in front of the tombstone, waved his arm, and the tomb suddenly fell apart. And with the collapse of the tomb, a half-meter tall small tree appeared in the sight of the inner demons. The small tree was black all over, with 3 slender branches. Every leaf on the branches was emitting a hazy black light. The inner demons was stunned. They did not expect that there was a small tree in the tomb. And at the top of the 3 branches of the small tree, there were 3 black fruits. That is, hearing this, Ren Duxing raised his head and looked over. His eyes immediately glowed green. What is it? The inner demons secretly said. Ren Duxing said, if you promise to help me, I will tell you. The inner demons said angrily, I already said that there is no way to activate the concealment technique today. I thought of a plan. You send me to the castle first, then you will be the bait to get close to the state preceptor, and I will wait for the opportunity to act. Ren Duxing said. Do you think it is possible? The inner demon sneered. The alchemy mantra and the six-word divine formula were in the castle. How could he let Renduxing go there? Okay, I will tell you first, that small tree is called the Tree of Fortune. The Tree of Fortune will emit an invisible force. This force is pervasive, but it is harmless to the human body. On the contrary, it can bring great benefits to people. Because this force can slowly change a person's physique. In short, it can let a person be reborn, from a waste to a genius. Renduxing secretly said. What? The inner demons was dumbfounded. There was actually such an outrageous thing in this world? Renduxing said again, it is not an exaggeration to say that this Tree of Fortune is more valuable than a divine artifact, and the fruits it bears are also very useful. I was wondering why the people in this village have such good talent and potential. It turns out that it is because of this Tree of Fortune. The inner demon said. The opportunity will not come again. Hurry up and make a decision. Renduxing urged. But there was also a trace of greed in his eyes. The inner demons asked, what is the use of its fruit? You will know when you open the next page of the alchemy mantra. Renduxing said. The next page of the alchemy mantra, the inner demons murmured. Fei Yang, Uncle Yuan has a way to let you reap the benefits. Suddenly, an ethereal voice sounded in the mind of the inner demons. Uncle Yuan. The inner demons and Qin Fei Yang both heard this voice and their spirits were suddenly lifted. Uncle Yuan, where are you? Both of them shouted in their hearts. When it is time to show up, Uncle Yuan will show up. Now listen to Uncle Yuan. When you do this, Uncle Yuan's voice was clearly transmitted into the ears of the inner demons and Qin Fei Yang. Understood. The inner demons secretly responded, and a bloody light flashed in his eyes. He turned to look at Renduxing, shook his head, and said, no matter what, I will not let you go to the castle, but I have an idea. A trace of anger flashed in Renduxing's eyes, but he immediately concealed it and asked secretly, what is it? The inner demon's eyes flashed, and said, I will lend you Chang Shui, and with Chang Shui's ability, you will definitely be able to easily defeat the state preceptor. Chang Shui. Chapter 1240. Although Renduxing concealed his greed very well, it was still caught by the inner demons. He secretly sneered and said, however, I have a condition. What condition? Renduxing was taken aback and asked. The inner demons said, the seal of slavery. What? Renduxing's expression changed and he shook his head. That's impossible. While the two were talking, the Grand Preceptor waved his hand, and a black shield appeared around the tree of creation. That was the seal. Chang Shui is such an important thing, and I can give it to you. What else do you have to worry about? Moreover, after I get it, you can return Chang Shui to me, and I will immediately remove the seal of slavery. The inner demon said. Renduxing looked at the inner demons, his expression uncertain. Crack. Suddenly, with a crisp sound, the barrier protecting the tree of creation shattered. An obscure energy immediately surged in all directions. This was the energy emitted by the tree of creation. It was just that it was sealed before, so it was not obvious. The inner demons said indifferently, as you said, the opportunity will not come again. Hurry up and make a decision. He deliberately showed that he did not care. Okay. I agree. But if you dare to play any tricks, I will immediately destroy Chang Shui. Renduxing gritted his teeth and nodded. Okay. The inner demons formed a seal with both hands, and the seal of slavery instantly condensed. Release your divine sense, don't resist. The inner demons waved his hand, and the seal of slavery swept into Renduxing's head like lightning. Although the seal of slavery would backfire when controlling someone stronger than oneself, as long as the other party did not resist and willingly accepted the control, there was no risk. Renduxing clenched his hands tightly, enduring the pain. In an instant, The seal of slavery was completed. At this moment, the imperial preceptor walked in front of the tree of creation and reached out to grab it. The inner demons immediately took out the Chang Shui and threw it to Renduxing. Renduxing also instantly erased the blood contract in the Chang Shui, and then dripped his blood to claim ownership. How is this possible? There's actually a seal inside Chang Shui. Renduxing was startled after he dripped his blood on it to recognize it as its master. Seal. The inner demons were stunned. Is there a seal in Chang Shui? Why didn't he sense it? Could it be that his cultivation level wasn't high enough? But in the next moment, Renduxing came back to his senses. Like a sharp arrow, he rushed out of the window and rushed towards the imperial tutor. In the meantime, a strand of divine sense flowed into Chang Shui. Chang Shui instantly emitted a resplendent milky light, and a monstrous sharpness surged out. The inner demons was stunned. This was the first time he saw Chang Shui erupt with such a terrifying sharpness. Chang Shui, how strong are you? He muttered to himself and entered the castle. The battle between Renduxing and the imperial preceptor was not something he could participate in. Who's there? In the meantime, the imperial preceptor roared and turned to look at Renduxing. His expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly turned back, grabbed the tree of creation, and uprooted it. But just as he was about to put it away, Renduxing rushed in front of him. With a gentle wave of the Chang Shui, he cut off the imperial preceptor's wrist. The palm holding the tree of creation fell to the ground with a thud. So sharp. Renduxing was stunned and then looked at Chang Shui in shock. The imperial preceptor was a pseudo-god. How could it be cut off so easily? At the same time, the imperial preceptor was also shocked. He did not even care about the tree of creation. He immediately retreated and shouted, "Why is the Chang Shui in your hands? Of course it was Qin Feiyang who gave it to me." Renduxing smiled sinisterly. After seeing how terrifying Chang Shui was, his confidence soared. He charged at the imperial preceptor like lightning and said with a sinister smile, "Today is the day you die." The imperial preceptor's face turned pale. The aura emitted by Chang Shui made him feel fear from the bottom of his heart. Boom! He did not hesitate to take out the jade pendant. The power of the pseudo-god surged and instantly recovered. He blasted it toward Renduxing. Cut! Renduxing roared. The Chang Shui in his hand flew out like a bolt of lightning. It streaked across the sky and collided with the jade pendant. A shocking scene appeared. That fully awakened jade pendant was actually sliced in half by Chang Shui with one slash. It was as simple as cutting tofu. What? At this moment, whether it was the imperial preceptor, Renduxing, or the inner demons and Fatso in the ancient castle, they all widened their eyes in anger. A divine artifact was destroyed just like that. Was this a dream? How could Chang Shui be so powerful? It was unbelievable. The jade pendant was a divine artifact. However, it was so fragile in front of Chang Shui. What level of divine artifact was Chang Shui? Pfft! The imperial preceptor spat out blood. The destruction of the jade pendant caused him severe injuries. His old face was pale. "Old man, you won't be as lucky today as you were in the Magic Dragon Mountains." Renduxing suddenly laughed. With a wave of his hand, the Chang Shui turned in the air and returned to his hand. He grabbed the Chang Shui and rushed toward the imperial preceptor crazily. The imperial preceptor panicked when he saw the Chang Shui. He immediately fled at full speed without looking back. "Where do you think you're going?" But at this moment, the inner demons stood in front of him, their eyes shining with a bloodthirsty light. He formed a seal with both hands and the divine dragon seal appeared in the air. It carried a rolling divine power and blasted toward the imperial preceptor. Then, he immediately disappeared. He came out of the ancient castle not to kill the Imperial Preceptor, but to block the Imperial Preceptor's retreat and fight for a chance for Renduxing. After all, he knew his own limits. With his current strength, he could not fight a false god head-on. Little bastard, the Imperial Preceptor was furious, but he did not dare to stop. The power of the false god surged in his palm and he slapped the divine dragon seal. Boom! The divine dragon seal shattered on the spot. At the same time, Renduxing threw out the Chang Shui again. Whoosh! The Chang Shui cut through the air, creating an ear-piercing screech as it rubbed against the air. In the next moment, it sank into the Imperial Preceptor's back and out of his lower abdomen. Then, a 3-finger-wide bloody hole appeared on the Imperial Preceptor's lower abdomen. It went through the front and back, and blood spurted out like a fountain. Ah! He screamed and fell down powerlessly. His entire face was distorted by the pain. Bang! In the end, he fell on the grass outside the village, creating a deep pit on the ground. Whoosh! Renduxing immediately swooped down and landed in front of the Imperial Preceptor. He sneered and said, "You didn't expect that with just a Chang Shui, you wouldn't be able to fight back." The Imperial Preceptor was silent and stared at Renduxing with hatred. "If you hadn't expelled Qin Feiyang from the capital back then now, the Chang Shui wouldn't be in my hands, but in yours. Then, the person lying here at this moment would definitely be me." Renduxing sneered. Hearing this, the Imperial Preceptor's eyes trembled. That's right. If that incident hadn't happened back then, Qin Feiyang definitely wouldn't be his enemy, let alone help Mu Tianyang. There's a good saying, karma is a circle, retribution is not good. Back then, you expelled Qin Feiyang, this is the cause, and now, you died because of Qin Feiyang, this is the effect. However, you can't be blamed for this. Because at that time, neither you nor the current emperor would have thought that Qin Feiyang would have today's achievements. Renduxing sneered. A wisp of divine sense entered the Imperial Preceptor's body, forcibly took out the ancient tower, and instantly erased the blood contract inside. The Imperial Preceptor smiled bitterly. Renduxing glanced at him disdainfully, then cut his finger and dripped blood to bind it. Whoosh! At this time, the inner demons appeared, looked down at the Imperial Preceptor, and laughed, "Old bastard, are you happy?" The Imperial Preceptor said angrily, "You are helping the evildoer, sooner or later, you will kill everyone in the great Qin Empire." "Is that so?" The inner demons smiled indifferently. "Of course. What kind of person do you think Mu Tianyang is? He is bloodthirsty and cruel. When he revives the Tianyang Empire, no one in the great Qin Empire will be spared." The Imperial Preceptor shouted. "Is that so?" The inner demons turned to look at Renduxing. "What do you think?" Renduxing asked. "I think what he said should be true, but what does this have to do with me?" The inner demons smiled coldly, stretched out his hand, and said indifferently, "Return Chang Shui to me." Chang Shui, Renduxing put the ancient tower into his body, looked down at Chang Shui, and the greed in his eyes could not be concealed. The inner demon said playfully, "Do you want it? Will you give it to me?" Renduxing asked. "What do you think?" The inner demons asked. "I don't think so." Renduxing shook his head. The inner demons mocked, "Then what are you thinking about? Don't forget that you are now controlled by the seal of slavery." Seal of slavery. Renduxing was silent for a moment. Then, he suddenly smiled. "What are you laughing at?" The inner demons asked. "The power Chang Shui has shown so far is stronger than I thought. And if the seal is broken, how strong will it be? Can you imagine?" Renduxing said. "What does this have to do with you?" The inner demon said. "Of course it does. Do you think I will return such a terrifying artifact to you?" Renduxing laughed. The inner demons was not surprised at all, because it was all within his expectations. Don't threaten me with the seal of slavery. Although I don't understand the seal of slavery, with the strength of my divine sense, do you really think you can destroy my soul? Ren Duxing joked. The inner demons clapped and said with a smile, wonderful, wonderful. Continue. Ren Duxing raised his eyebrows. The inner demon's confident and calm attitude made him very uncomfortable. He said, the tree of creation, Chang Shui, and the ancient pagoda, don't even think about touching any of them. If you know what's good for you, get out of here. Huh, the state preceptor next to him laughed and got up awkwardly. He looked at Qin Feiyang gloatingly and said, do you see his face clearly? You are asking a tiger for its skin by cooperating with him. The inner demons glanced at him, then looked at Ren Duxing and said, you know what? I have never trusted you and Lu Xingqian, but why did I dare to give you Chang Shui? Why? Ren Duxing frowned. The inner demons joked, because an old man asked me to do so. An old man? Ren Duxing was surprised. The state preceptor also looked suspicious. What kind of old man would ask Qin Feiyang to do such a stupid thing? The inner demons looked at Ren Duxing and said with a smile, this old man told me that the seal of slavery is very powerful. As long as someone is controlled, no matter how strong their cultivation is, their soul will be instantly erased, including yours. What? Chapter 1241. The inner demons joked, hearing my words, do you feel like you've fallen from heaven to hell? Haha, Ren Duxing laughed and said, do you think I'll believe you just because you say a few words? The inner demons was stunned and shook his head helplessly, saying, I'm really not joking. Ren Duxing sneered and said, then tell me, what level of battle art is this slave seal of yours? Don't tell me it's also a divine art. I don't know either. The inner demons shook his head. Then how dare you say such big words? Get out of my sight immediately, or don't blame me for being polite. Ren Duxing shouted. Why don't you believe me? That old man won't lie to me. The inner demons rubbed his forehead and said weakly. Ren Duxing sneered and said, then call him out and let me see. I can't do that. That old man is mysterious and unpredictable. If he doesn't want to appear, then no one can make him appear. The inner demons shrugged. Stop pretending to be mysterious here. If you don't get lost, you'll definitely regret it. Ren Duxing shouted, his face full of contempt. The inner demons grinned and said, then let me tell you, if you don't hand over Chang Shui, you'll definitely regret it. Then I'd like to see how you're going to make me regret it. Ren Duxing crossed his arms, his eyes full of ridicule. You're really not afraid? You'll lose your life. The inner demon said. Then you'll make me lose my life. Ren Duxing sneered, fearless. Are you sure? The inner demons asked. I'm sure. Ren Duxing looked at him coldly. Sigh. Why are there so many people in this world who want to die? It's hard to be a good person. I can't help it. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The inner demons sighed deeply. Ren Duxing crossed his arms over his chest. He wanted to see what kind of tricks this person could play. But suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his head. What happened? His gaze trembled and his face was filled with bewilderment. Following closely. The pain became more and more intense, and his head felt like it was about to explode. He couldn't help but hug his head and lay on the ground, howling in pain. Why is this happening? Ren Duxing's face was filled with disbelief. The state preceptor was also dumbfounded. Even divine sense couldn't block the enslavement seal. Wasn't this too overbearing? I already said that the old man wouldn't lie to me, but you didn't believe me. How do you feel now? The inner demon looked down at Ren Duxing condescendingly, his face full of sarcasm. This is impossible. Ren Duxing said as he shook his head vigorously. Nothing is impossible in this world. The inner demons chuckled and said, when you heard that I took the initiative to give you Chang Shui, weren't you overjoyed? Ren Duxing suddenly raised his head and looked at the inner demons. Humph! The inner demon snorted from his nose, and a strong bloody light appeared in his eyes. He said, do you think that I don't know what you're thinking? Do you think that you have the right to touch Chang Shui? Ren Duxing endured the pain and stared at the inner demons, his eyes flickering. Suddenly, a stiff smile appeared on his face. He said, I was just joking just now. Don't take it seriously. Joking? Hee hee, do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Do you think I'll believe whatever you say? The inner demons had a mocking expression. Then what do you want? Don't forget the agreement between you and Lu Xingchen. Now we're in a cooperative relationship. Ren Duxing said in a deep voice. You know that we have an agreement. I thought you didn't know. But what were you doing just now? Weren't you very strong just now? You even told me to get lost. And you were rude to me. What? Now that you're scared, you talk about an agreement with me. Don't you think it's funny? The inner demon sneered. No matter what, I have no ill intentions towards you. Ren Duxing said. If you have no ill intentions, why did you steal my Chang Shui? Although you were once the emperor who ruled the world, don't forget that the Tianyang Empire has fallen. It's the Great Qin Empire now. This is not a place where you can do whatever you want. The inner demon's eyes turned cold. With a thought, he directly erased Ren Duxing's soul. Bang! Ren Duxing immediately fell to the ground and breathed his last. Seeing this scene, the state preceptor was shocked. He even killed the emperor of the previous dynasty just like that. How cold was this man's heart? The inner demons waved his hand and Chang Shui flew into the air and landed in his hand. Then, he put Ren Duxing's body into the castle. Ren Duxing was Ren Wushuang's father. So, no matter what, he had to give the body to Ren Wushuang. Then, the inner demons looked at the state preceptor with murderous intent in his eyes. Don't you dare hurt my ancestor. But at this moment, accompanied by a stern shout, 5 figures rushed out from the nearby mountains. The 5 of them were quite old and their aura was terrifying. Whoosh! And they were surrounded by bloody mist and were extremely fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, they rushed to the sky above the inner demons. 4 of them didn't say a word. They directly formed 4 golden light swords and charged toward the inner demon with destructive sharpness. The remaining 1 rushed toward the state preceptor. The inner demons looked up at the 5 of them and narrowed his eyes slightly. They were all 9-star combat emperors. You're courting death. Suddenly, he waved his hand and the divine dragon seal appeared in the sky. In an instant, it grew to hundreds of feet and surged with divine power, blasting toward the 4 battle swords. Humph! The 4 of them snorted coldly and raised their hands in the air. Clang! Crack! The 4 light swords suddenly erupted with a strong divine power and the sharpness tore the sky and split the earth. What? Divine art! The inner demon's expression changed. Rumble! The divine dragon seal and the 4 light swords met in midair like a collision of comets. A terrifying wave of air emerged out of thin air and rushed in all directions. The inner demons lifted the wave of air on the spot and blood gushed out. His flesh was lacerated and lacerated. The 9-star combat emperor who flew toward the state preceptor was also bombarded by the wave of air and his flesh and blood flew everywhere. But he did not take a step back. He gritted his teeth and flew in front of the state preceptor. He picked up the state preceptor and escaped without looking back. Let's go. Seeing this, the 4 people who attacked the inner demons immediately turned around and fled. You want to save someone from my hands? You're dreaming. The inner demons was furious. His murderous aura surged to the sky. Roar! He flew into the sky and the purple gold dragon soul roared out. Innate divine ability, Emperor Divine Prison. The inner demon let out a loud roar, and that invisible pressure swept across the sky like a torrential flood, rushing toward the 5 people. The 5 of them were imprisoned in the void on the spot. This person is too strong. You guys go quickly. Explode. One of them roared and a destructive aura erupted from his body. The next moment, his body exploded in the void. How shocking was the self-destruction of a 9-star combat emperor. It was not an exaggeration to say that it could destroy heaven and earth. Crack. Boom. The billowing wave of air was earth-shattering and destroying everything. Self-destruction without a word. Isn't this too risky? The inner demon's expression changed. He did not dare to hesitate and immediately hid in the ancient castle. What's going on? Why did someone come out to save the imperial preceptor? Could it be the people from that village? In the ancient castle. Fatso looked at the inner demons in surprise. No. I've never seen them. The inner demons shook his head and his expression was extremely gloomy. Then who are they? Fatso frowned. I don't know. But from the way they addressed the imperial preceptor, it's not difficult to guess that they should be the imperial preceptor's descendants. The inner demon said. The white-eyed wolf nodded and said, that's right. They call the imperial preceptor ancestor. They must be related to the imperial preceptor by blood. Swish. At this moment, Qin Feiyang appeared from the inner world and said, but I've never heard of the imperial preceptor having descendants. The inner demons looked up at Qin Feiyang and said in surprise, could it be that in addition to the mysterious organization that we destroyed, he has cultivated another force? It's possible. Qin Feiyang nodded. How deep is this old man hiding? The inner demons rubbed his temples. He had a headache. Not good. Suddenly, the inner demon's eyes trembled. What's wrong? Everyone looked at him suspiciously. The inner demons looked at everyone and said in annoyance, the tree of creation is still outside. It's probably been destroyed by that person's self-explosion. Fatso's expression stiffened and he said angrily, how can you be so careless? Shouldn't you grab such an important thing as soon as possible? The inner demons wanted to explain, but he was powerless to do so. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, it's us who can't run away. It's not us who can't force it. Look on the bright side. Besides, we also got that ancient pagoda. It's not a loss. Ancient pagoda? The inner demons was slightly stunned. He patted his head hard and almost forgot about it. He quickly sank his mind into Renduxing's body. Where's the ancient pagoda? Immediately, the inner demon's expression stiffened. There was no ancient pagoda in Renduxing's body. Previously, he saw with his own eyes that the ancient pagoda was taken into Renduxing's body. It's gone. How is that possible? Fatso, Wolf King and the other beasts surrounded him. They all looked surprised, but there was a trace of a sinister smile in their eyes. The inner demons looked up at them and frowned. Did you take it away? No. We didn't see it at all. Fatso hurriedly said. Are you sure? I don't believe it. It grew wings and flew away. The inner demon's face turned cold and looked at Fatso unkindly. Fatso shrunk his neck and couldn't help but feel guilty. Big brother, the ancient pagoda is on him. Suddenly, a young and tender voice sounded. The inner demons looked up and saw Wang Lin, that little girl, raising her small hand and pointing at the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf's body stiffened and turned his head to glare fiercely at Wang Lin. But Wang Lin wasn't afraid of it. She stuck out her tongue at Wolf King and made a face, looking extremely cute. Hand it over immediately. The inner demons looked at the white-eyed wolf with a face full of anger. No, the white-eyed wolf shook his head like a rattledrum. It had long coveted Qin Feiyang's ancient castle, but because the ancient castle was left to Qin Feiyang by Uncle Yuan, it didn't dare to have any ideas. And now, it definitely didn't want to hand over this spatial divine object. I'll say it again, give it to me. The inner demons said word by word, his face incomparably cold. You already have an ancient castle, why do you still have this ancient pagoda? Wolf King muttered in dissatisfaction, then looked at Qin Feiyang's original body for help. Qin Feiyang's original body rolled his eyes and directly went into the inner world. This bastard wolf cub should be taught a lesson. Are you going to give it to me or not? The inner demons was angry. Chapter 1242. After the white-eyed wolf handed over the ancient pagoda, the inner demons relaxed. Fatso asked, can we enter the ancient pagoda to cultivate? The inner demons joked, do you want to go? I can send you in now. Okay. Fatso nodded. There was an underground world inside the ancient pagoda. It was much bigger than the ancient castle, and they had more freedom inside. Cough cough. The white-eyed wolf coughed and stared at Fatso. Why are we waiting for Fat Lord? Fatso looked at it with dissatisfaction. You really want to go in? The white-eyed wolf said. Is there a problem? Fatso was puzzled. The white-eyed wolf said angrily, are you an idiot? Did you forget that the time inside the ancient castle has changed? Yes. Fatso suddenly realized. He looked at the inner demons and waved his hand, don't send me in. Although the ancient castle is small, I have a deep affection for it after so many years. I really don't want to leave it. Idiot. The inner demon rolled her eyes at him. She cut her finger and dripped a drop of blood to claim ownership. She sighed, if we had this ancient pagoda in the forgotten continent, Yen Wei's people wouldn't have to stay in the endless ocean. Everyone nodded. The underground world was vast and boundless. It was enough for the people of the Sky Tiger tribe to build their own home. The inner demons took a deep breath and waved its hand. The ancient pagoda flew into its forehead and then left the ancient castle. But in the next moment, it appeared again. It was dripping with blood. What happened? Fatso and the others were surprised. The self-destruction of the 9-star combat emperor was too powerful. I'm afraid we will have to wait for a while before we can leave. I don't know if Uncle Yuan is still here. The inner demons whispered. Uncle Yuan. Fatso and Wolf King were bewildered. The inner demons said, the person who asked me to give Chang Shui to Renduxing was Uncle Yuan. But at that time, I only heard his voice and didn't see him. Uncle Yuan is back. Fatso and Wolf King looked at each other, their eyes filled with ecstasy. Temple of Light. In a certain alchemy room. Lu Xingchen was standing in front of the pill furnace refining pills. Just as Renduxing was killed, his body suddenly trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood into the pill furnace. Rumble. Not only were the pills destroyed, but the pill furnace had also exploded. How could this be? Renduxing, he stood on the ground, muttering to himself, his pale face full of disbelief. Thousands of miles away from the village, above a forest, 4 silhouettes were flying as fast as lightning. Their bodies were drenched in blood, and their eyes were filled with weakness. One of them was holding a white-haired old man. This person was the state preceptor. The state preceptor turned his head and looked behind, saying in a deep voice, they didn't chase after us. Let's take a rest. The 4 nodded and landed on a mountain peak. After putting down the state preceptor, the 4 of them knelt on the ground and blamed themselves, Ancestor, we're sorry. We came too late. It's okay. The state preceptor waved his hand and sat on a bluestone. He swallowed a spirit sea pill and looked in the direction of the village, his eyes flashing with a piercing cold light. A moment later, he retracted his gaze and looked at the four of them, saying, "Fortunately, you didn't come in time. Otherwise, even you would have died under that Chang Shui. Ancestor, are you talking about the dagger in Qin Feiyang's hand?" The four of them were surprised. "Yes. That dagger is too terrifying. It destroyed my divine artifact without any effort." Recalling the scene of the jade pendant being destroyed, the state preceptor couldn't help but feel terrified. What? Even the jade pendant was destroyed? What about the ancient pagoda and the tree of creation? The four of them looked at the state preceptor nervously. "It's gone. It's all gone." The state preceptor clenched his hands tightly and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. This time, he had lost more than a little. The divine weapon jade pendant, the ancient pagoda, the tree of creation, and the men of sacrifice that he had cultivated for thousands of years were all destroyed. It could be said that his efforts over the years were all for naught. Hearsay. The four of them looked gloomy. One of the old men suddenly shouted, "We can't let this go. Yes. An eye for an eye. Qin Feiyang destroyed our efforts. We can't let him have it easy." The other three were also seething with anger. The state preceptor looked at the four of them and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He sneered, "I'll make him pay. Come, follow me to the imperial city." "Okay." The four of them nodded. One of them opened a portal. Then, the four of them followed the state preceptor and entered the portal. Inside the ancient castle, the inner demons waited anxiously. He didn't have any feelings for Uncle Yuan before because he was the inner demons and didn't have any feelings. However, as his temperament changed, he gradually developed feelings for Yuan Bo that were hard to part with. Buzz. Suddenly, the image crystal rang. The inner demons raised his eyebrows and took out the image crystal. A purple-clothed young man immediately appeared in the void. It was Lu Xingqian. "What are you doing?" the inner demons said impatiently. "Where's Renduxing?" Lu Xingqian asked with a gloomy face. "Killed him." The inner demons smiled coldly and moved the image crystal. The dead Renduxing lying on the ground immediately came into Lu Xingqian's sight. "You killed him?" Lu Xingqian's face stiffened and he shouted. "Yes. I killed him." The inner demon said. "Why? Didn't we agree to cooperate?" Lu Xingqian said angrily. "Yes, it's cooperation. It's also because of cooperation that I lent Chang Shui to him. But I didn't expect him to want to take it for himself. Is that possible? How can he touch what belongs to me, Qin Feiyang?" The inner demons looked at Lu Xingqian arrogantly, his eyes full of contempt. "That's impossible. Before I left, I told him not to do anything to destroy our relationship." Lu Xingqian shook his head. "The point is, he did it. Of course, I won't show mercy." The inner demon sneered. "Then you could have sent me a message. I could have persuaded him. Why did you kill him?" Lu Xingqian shouted hysterically. "Persuade? Don't you know what kind of person I am? For those who dare to plot against me, I won't let them go even if they're the emperor." The inner demon snorted coldly. Lu Xingqian fell silent. "I'm very busy. Is there anything else?" The inner demons said coldly. "I'll get to the bottom of this matter. If I find out that you're lying to me, I won't let it go." Lu Xingqian said gloomily. "Any time." The inner demons smiled arrogantly and turned off the image crystal. Fatso laughed and said, "This is the first time I've seen Lu Xingqian so angry." The inner demon sneered and said, "This means that Renduxing's death is very harmful to him." Swish. After saying that, the inner demons left the castle again. The village outside had long been reduced to ashes. Not even a piece of sawdust was left. The inner demons stood high in the sky and scanned the surroundings. The destructive power of the 9-star combat emperor's self-destruction had dissipated a lot. Uncle Yuan, where are you? The inner demons shouted loudly, spreading in all directions. But after waiting for a while, they did not hear Uncle Yuan's response. Has he already left? The inner demons looked quite disappointed. Qin Feiyang also appeared from the inner world and looked around. His eyes were filled with longing. The inner demons turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said, "It seems that Uncle Yuan has really left. He really comes and goes like a ghost." Qin Feiyang sighed. Ha! However, before he could finish his sentence, a faint laughter echoed in the void. Uncle Yuan. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons were refreshed and quickly scanned the surroundings. Swish! The next moment. In the void in front of the two, a white-haired old man appeared out of thin air. Uncle Yuan, the two hurriedly looked over. They saw the white-robed old man standing in the void. His snow-white robe was spotless. His white hair fluttered in the wind. There was no aura from his body. He was like an ordinary old man. Feiyang, long time no see. Uncle Yuan looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. His wrinkled face was full of kindness and doting. Looking at that familiar face, Qin Feiyang's eyes gradually filled with a mist, blurring his vision. Uncle Yuan blamed himself and said, "I'm very sorry for leaving without saying goodbye back then." Qin Feiyang could not hold it in anymore. He threw himself into Uncle Yuan's arms like a child who had found his family. Uncle Yuan reached out his hand and patted Qin Feiyang's back. He smiled and said, "Silly child, how old are you? Still crying? Who said you can't cry when you grow up?" "Uncle Yuan, I really miss you," Qin Feiyang murmured, tears gushing out like a spring. "I miss you too." Uncle Yuan smiled. His eyes could not help but moisten. The inner demons stood at the side. Looking at the two with tears in their eyes, they could not help but feel a trace of envy. After a long time, Qin Feiyang climbed up from Uncle Yuan's arms. He firmly grasped that old hand and looked up at Uncle Yuan with expectation. He asked, "Since you've come back this time, you won't leave again, right?" Uncle Yuan smiled and said, "You've already grown up. You have your own path to walk, and I also have my own things to do. So, in other words, this was just a short meeting." Qin Feiyang immediately lowered his head. His eyes were full of reluctance. "Silly child, the future is long. We'll meet again sooner or later." Uncle Yuan rubbed Qin Feiyang's head. His face was full of doting. Then he looked up at the inner demons and said, "You come here too." The inner demons were unprecedentedly obedient. They walked in front of Uncle Yuan. Uncle Yuan smiled and said, "This is our first official meeting." The inner demons nodded. Uncle Yuan said, "Thank you for not hurting Feiyang." Seeing Uncle Yuan being so polite, the inner demons felt a bit uneasy. Uncle Yuan smiled and said, "If you don't mind, you can also call me Uncle Yuan." "Can I?" The inner demons was a bit nervous. "Of course. Didn't you call me that before?" Uncle Yuan smiled and said. The inner demons smiled embarrassedly. Uncle Yuan raised both hands. One hand grabbed the inner demon's hand, the other hand grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand. He smiled and said, "You're all good children. Uncle Yuan is proud of you. Uncle Yuan hopes that you can always get along peacefully like this." "Not interested." The inner demons glanced at Qin Feiyang. Then he turned his head and looked away, showing a cold and arrogant attitude. "I'm also not interested." Qin Feiyang snorted through his nose. Uncle Yuan shook his head and smiled, saying, "Okay, stop bickering. Where's that wolf cub?" "He's in the castle." Qin Feiyang said. Uncle Yuan said, "Take me in. I want to see him and meet your friends. Okay. Chapter 1243. Inside the castle. Old man, I finally see you again. You don't know how much I've missed you all these years. When Uncle Yuan appeared in the castle, the white-eyed wolf immediately pounced on him. Really? Uncle Yuan squatted on the ground and rubbed the white-eyed wolf's little head. His eyes were full of love. More real than real gold. The white-eyed wolf nodded and smiled. Old man, look, I miss you so much. We haven't seen each other for so long. Do you have any greeting gifts? If it's too expensive, I don't want it. As long as you give me more than a dozen god arts and more than a dozen god weapons, I'll be satisfied. Asking for a gift was his real purpose. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons' faces darkened. More than a dozen god arts and more than a dozen god weapons, this was called a little. This guy dared to ask. And Fatso, the double-winged snow eagle and the other beasts stood silently at the side, looking at Uncle Yuan curiously. Because, this was the first time they saw Uncle Yuan in person. Before this, they had heard all kinds of rumors. It was hard to imagine that this legendary figure was so amiable. He was simply an old grandpa next door. There will definitely be a greeting gift. Uncle Yuan shook his head and smiled. He got up and looked at Fatso, the double-winged snow eagle and the other beasts. He smiled and said, I believe everyone already knows me, so I won't introduce myself. Everyone laughed foolishly. Don't be so reserved. You are the people Feiyang trusts the most. That's also the people this old man trusts the most. Uncle Yuan smiled. Everyone felt bitter in their hearts. Facing such a legendary figure, how could they not be reserved? Uncle Yuan said, in the future, you can also call me Uncle Yuan. I won't favor one and discriminate against the other. Everyone looked at each other. Listening to what he said, could it be that he really prepared a greeting gift for them? Uncle Yuan lightly smiled. He raised his aged arm and lightly waved it. A formless energy immediately surged out. Everyone was shocked. Don't be nervous. Uncle Yuan smiled. That invisible force turned into wisps of pure energy and entered everyone's body. Boom! In an instant. Other than the head valley master and Wang Lin's 8 children, everyone else's aura burst out uncontrollably from their bodies. Following closely. Everyone's aura surged crazily. In less than 3 breaths. Under the shocked gazes of Qin Feiyang and the inner demons, the cultivation of Fatso, Wolf King, and the other beasts actually broke through 2 minor realms in succession. This, Qin Feiyang and the inner demons looked at each other in shock. The Grand Valley Master was dumbfounded. With a wave of his hand, he helped everyone raise their cultivation levels by 2 minor levels. What a heaven-defying method! Who exactly was this old man? Fatso, Wolf King, and the other beasts were stunned for a moment before they went wild with joy. Of course. They were also deeply shocked by Yuan Bo's godly means. Uncle Yuan glanced at everyone and waved his hand. That formless energy dissipated. He smiled and asked, is everyone satisfied? Satisfied, satisfied. If we can all raise our cultivation to the War Emperor level, then we will be even more satisfied. Wolf King chuckled. Don't be discontent. The inner demons glared at him fiercely. Brother was just saying, why are you so serious? Wolf King pursed his lips. Yuan Bo shook his head and smiled, saying, seeing you all so united and united, this old man can be completely relieved. Yuan Bo, are you leaving now? Fatso asked. Yuan Bo nodded. Everyone present, especially Qin Feiyang, was extremely disappointed. Yuan Bo looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled, Feiyang, I can understand your feelings, but life is like this, fate comes and goes, and separation and reunion. I understand. Qin Feiyang nodded. Although he understood, he was still reluctant. Yuan Bo smiled and waved his hand. A half-meter tall black tree appeared out of thin air. Tree of Creation. The inner demon's eyes lit up. He thought it was destroyed, but he didn't expect Yuan Bo to find it. Yuan Bo waved his hand, and the Tree of Creation floated in front of Qin Feiyang and the inner demons, smiling. This Tree of Creation can be called a divine tree, you must take good care of it. Divine tree. Everyone was shocked. Qin Feiyang glanced at the Tree of Creation, then looked at Yuan Bo and asked, "What's with the slave seal?" He originally thought that the slave seal couldn't control existences above the false god realm, but he never thought that it could. Yuan Bo said, "The slave seal is not a battle art, but a divine art and a peak level one." What? A peak level divine art? I seem to remember that the mysterious lady said that the slave seal was created by her. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yuan Bo smiled. With her ability, she can't create such a heaven-defying divine art. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "Yuan Bo, you know her too?" "Of course. I have some connections with her." Yuan Bo said. "What connections?" Qin Feiyang was curious. Yuan Bo shook his head and smiled, "I can't say, but when you see her in the future, you can't be too presumptuous." So mysterious? Qin Feiyang was surprised, asking, "Then where did the slave seal come from?" "A miracle." Yuan Bo said. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned, as if he suddenly thought of something. "You mean the miracle in Forgotten Continent?" "Yes." Yuan Bo nodded. Qin Feiyang was stunned. In the past, he wanted to enter that miracle to become stronger, but he didn't expect that there would be such a heaven-defying divine art inside. Now, he was looking forward to it more and more. "Oh right. I remember Ren Duxing said that there is a seal inside the Changshui, is that true?" The inner demons suddenly asked. "I don't know." Yuan Bo shook his head. "You don't know?" Whether it was the inner demons or Qin Feiyang, they didn't believe it. "I really don't know. In this world, there are very few things that I can't see through, and Changshui and the castle are one of them." Yuan Bo said. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons looked at each other, their eyes full of disbelief. Even Yuan Bo couldn't see through it. Qin Feiyang said, "Then where did Changshui and the castle come from?" "Yuan Bo has no right to tell you this." Yuan Bo shook his head. "Then who has this right?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Your parents." Yuan Bo said. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel powerless. If his mother would tell him, she would have done so long ago, why would she wait until now? Yuan Bo sighed secretly, looked at Qin Feiyang and the inner demons, and said with a smile, "I should go, but before I leave, I have something to tell you." As he said, Yuan Bo looked at Wolf King, Fatso, and the others, and said with a smile, "You must also remember this sentence." Everyone nodded heavily, waiting for Yuan Bo to speak. "No matter what difficulties you encounter in the future, you must remember, don't forget your original intention." Yuan Bo said. "We will follow Yuan Bo's teachings." Everyone bowed and kowtowed. Yuan Bo smiled slightly and said, "You are all people with great luck, and your future achievements are immeasurable, but remember, don't forget your original intention, don't forget your original intention, and only then can you achieve good results." After that, Yuan Bo disappeared. Only an ethereal laughter was left, echoing in the castle, echoing in everyone's ears, unable to calm down for a long time. He left again. Qin Feiyang looked at the place where Yuan Bo disappeared, looking very lonely. This time is better than the last time, at least he didn't leave without saying goodbye. The inner demons patted him on the shoulder. "I can only comfort myself like this." Qin Feiyang shook his head with a bitter smile, and said, "But speaking of which, what did Yuan Bo's last sentence mean?" "We are all people with great luck, don't forget your original intention, don't forget your original intention, and only then can you achieve good results." Everyone also pondered. Great luck, they could understand, it was nothing more than their good luck. No matter where they went, they could turn misfortunes into blessings, or encounter some kind of opportunity. But don't forget your original intention, and only then can you achieve good results. They really couldn't understand this sentence. Brother, I feel like the old man seems to be hinting at something. Wolf King said. Everyone nodded, feeling the same way. Don't think about it. The inner demons shook his head, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I'll leave the rest to you. Qin Feiyang nodded. The inner demons turned off the kill formula and was about to return to the inner world, but suddenly looked at Qin Feiyang, and said, Wait, we seem to have forgotten something. What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The inner demon said, Everyone has a greeting gift, why don't we have one? Yes. Qin Feiyang was stunned, and then reacted. Biased. The inner demons shook his head and sighed, and returned to the inner world. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly, also entered the sea of consciousness, and took control of the physical body. At this time, Wang Lin came in front of Qin Feiyang, raised her small head, and asked curiously, Brother Jiang Fei, aren't you called Jiang Fei? But why do they all call you Qin Feiyang? Because my real name is Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled. So, Jiang Fei is a fake name? Wang Lin said. Qin Feiyang nodded. You are a liar, you lied to us, you lied to Brother Jia, and you lied to everyone in our village. I won't talk to you anymore. Wang Lin immediately snorted, turned around and pouted, and hugged her small arms together, looking quite cute. Qin Feiyang was stunned, then shook his head and smiled bitterly, looked at the Grand Valley Master and said, Tell me, what is the Imperial Preceptor's plot? The Grand Valley Master's eyes trembled, and he asked, If I tell you, will you let me go? I will think about it. Qin Feiyang said. The Grand Valley Master shook his head and said, If you don't promise in advance, I won't tell you. Qin Feiyang stepped forward, grabbed the Grand Valley Master's neck, and said coldly, Do you think you are still qualified to talk about conditions now? The Grand Valley Master didn't say a word. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, loosened his hand, and nodded, Okay, I promise, I won't kill you. The Grand Valley Master was relieved and said, The Imperial Preceptor wants to usurp the throne. I knew it. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Then what is his relationship with Zhuge Mingyang? The Grand Valley Master said, Zhuge Mingyang is his descendant. What? Qin Feiyang turned pale with fright. Fatty, Wolf King, and the other beasts also looked at the Grand Valley Master in shock. Chapter 1244. Zhuge Mingyang is the descendant of the Imperial Preceptor, then wouldn't the Imperial Preceptor's surname also be Zhuge? Boss, do you know the name of the Imperial Preceptor? Fatso asked. I don't know. Everyone basically calls him the Imperial Preceptor, but I've never heard of his name. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Fatso said, Then how did he become the Imperial Preceptor back then? You'll have to ask the current emperor. Qin Feiyang whispered. Then. He looked up at the Grand Valley Master and said, You've been with the Imperial Preceptor for so long, you should know these questions. I really don't know about these. His conspiracy, as well as his relationship with Zhuge Mingyang, were all analyzed by me and the Second Valley Master. The Grand Valley Master said. This old thing really did a flawless job. Fatso snorted coldly. It's still the same sentence, there's no such thing as an airtight wall in the world, no matter how secretive he is, isn't it still discovered by us now? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I've already told you what you want to know, now can you help me remove the blood-soul technique? The Grand Valley Master looked at him pleadingly. I can't help it. But I'll ask someone else. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he left the castle, took out the image crystal, and contacted Lu Hong. Lu Hong also quickly responded and gave him a coordinate. The Sea of Reincarnation. The wind whistled and the waves covered the sky. On the surface of the sea hundreds of miles away from the seaside stood a huge island. On the island, there were many reefs. But other than the reefs, there was nothing else. It was completely bare. At this moment, in the middle of the island, tens of thousands of people gathered together. Most of them were ordinary people with no cultivation base. They looked at the endless sea around them, their eyes full of fear and confusion. That's right. They were the villagers of that village. Wang Xiaojie and Wang Jin were among the crowd. And around these villagers, there was a group of people who had escaped from the underground world. They were protecting these villagers. This was because sea beasts could appear at any time around the island. Dozens of sea beast corpses floated on the surface of the sea in the distance. As for the dozen 9-star combat emperors, they were standing with Lu Hong and Lu Zheng. They looked at the sky and waited anxiously. Whoosh! Suddenly, above the island, a white figure appeared out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang. Lu Hong was the first to greet him. She smiled and said, "You're back." Qin Feiyang nodded. Lu Zheng also flew to Qin Feiyang's side and asked in a low voice, "What about the imperial advisor and Ren Duxing?" Qin Feiyang said, "Ren Duxing is dead, but imperial preceptor was rescued by someone." Amazing! Lu Zheng looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. He was actually able to kill Ren Duxing. Who saved the imperial tutor? Lu Hong asked. His descendants. It's a long story. I'll tell you slowly when I have time. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he took a step forward and landed beside Wang Xiaojie and the other two. "Brother Jiang Fei, what's going on? Why did the people who entered the Immortal Gate suddenly come back?" A few youths immediately came up and surrounded Qin Feiyang. They pointed at the people who escaped from the underground world and asked. The other villagers were also at a loss. "Children, there is no Immortal Gate in this world." A white-haired old man walked out and came to Qin Feiyang's side. He looked at the youths and sighed. "No Immortal Gate? Then why can you fly?" The youths asked. This, the white-haired old man didn't know how to answer for a moment. "You are." Qin Feiyang looked at the white-haired old man with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. The white-haired old man's voice was familiar. The white-haired old man said, "I'm the one who secretly warned you in the underground world." "So it's you." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. The white-haired old man said, "And my name is Wang Yangfeng." Wang Yangfeng? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Wasn't that the name on the tombstone of the ancestral tomb? "You're also called Wang Yangfeng." "Our ancestor was also called Wang Yangfeng." The people also became restless and looked at the white-haired old man curiously. The white-haired old man looked at the villagers and was about to explain, but before he could say anything, he was stopped by Qin Feiyang. "What's wrong?" Wang Yangfeng looked at him suspiciously. "In their hearts, you're already dead. If you tell them now that you're their ancestor, they won't be able to accept it at all." Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Wang Yangfeng was stunned and couldn't help but smile bitterly. He asked secretly, "Then when can I tell them?" Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said, "When they have a better understanding of cultivation." "Understood." Wang Yangfeng nodded. Plop. Suddenly, Wang Yangfeng knelt in front of Qin Feiyang. Seeing this, the others who escaped from the underground world also knelt on the ground one after another. In the crowd, Master Shen frowned and knelt down reluctantly. "Why are you doing this?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Thank you. Thank you for saving us from the sea of bitterness." Wang Yangfeng lowered his head and said with tears in his eyes. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Yangfeng and his eyes flickered. "For thousands of years, I watched my descendants being enslaved by the Grand Valley Master one by one, but I couldn't stop it. Do you know how sad I felt? I even wanted to die several times to atone for my sins. But I know that I can't do this, because only by living well can I have a chance to take everyone out of the sea of bitterness. However, I tried many ways, but none of them worked. If it weren't for your appearance, I'm afraid we would never be able to escape the clutches of the Grand Valley Master. So no matter what, Mr. Qin has to accept our 3 bows. Wang Yangfeng shouted and kowtowed to thank him. Please accept our 3 bows. The others also kowtowed heavily to the ground 3 times. Qin Feiyang said, protecting the people of the great Qin Empire is my duty. All of you, rise. Duty? Everyone was suspicious. Lu Zheng stepped forward and said lightly, you don't know yet, but the young man standing in front of you is the descendant of the first emperor. The first emperor? The villagers were puzzled. Lu Zheng couldn't help but feel powerless. They didn't even know about the emperor. Were they all primitive people? Lu Zheng looked at Wang Yangfeng and the others and asked, you don't know either? We don't know who the first emperor is, but we know the meaning of the word emperor. The emperor represents the king of a country. And the first emperor is the founding emperor. Wang Yangfeng said. You can understand it that way. Lu Zheng nodded and said, Qin Feiyang is the descendant of the founding emperor. Wang Yangfeng and the others looked at each other. They didn't expect Qin Feiyang to have such a powerful background. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Wang Yangfeng. What are your plans next? Plans? Wang Yangfeng was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, how are you going to settle these villagers? Wang Yangfeng thought for a moment and said, then may I ask if the state preceptor is a deity? Sort of. Qin Feiyang said. Wang Yangfeng's heart immediately sank. Qin Feiyang said, in order to train you, the state preceptor has spent a lot of effort, so he definitely won't let you go. You must find a hidden place to stay as soon as possible. Although I don't know much about the great Qin Empire, I still know one thing. All the land in the world belongs to the king, and all the people in the land are the king's subjects. The whole world belongs to the great Qin Empire. Where are we going to find a place to stay? Wang Yangfeng sighed, his old face full of worry. Lu Zheng's eyes flashed, and he said, brother, aren't you in need of people now? Why don't you take this opportunity to recruit them for your own use? Recruit them for my own use? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. Look, most of these people are combat emperors, and there are even a dozen 9-star combat emperors. With a little training, maybe a few pseudo-gods can be born. By then, won't you have the capital to compete with the imperial palace? Lu Zheng thought. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. The people in this village were all talents. As long as he taught them well, they would definitely help him achieve great things in the future. Besides, don't you think it's interesting to use these people trained by the state preceptor to deal with the state preceptor? Lu Zheng said with a sneaky smile. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. After a while, Wang Yangfeng, who was helpless, looked up at Qin Feiyang and took the initiative to say, young Master Qin, you are the descendant of the founding emperor. You must have a way to help us. Please, help us, okay? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he looked up and said, I can help you, but I have a condition. Say it. Wang Yangfeng was overjoyed. Serve me in the future. Qin Feiyang said. This, Wang Yangfeng's smile suddenly froze. The eyes of the others also changed and became a little unfriendly. Don't worry. I won't force you to do something you don't want to do like the state preceptor, and I won't hurt anyone in your village. In other words, you are completely free. Qin Feiyang said. Wang Yangfeng frowned. Young Master Qin, aren't you the descendant of the founding emperor? With your identity and status, you should only need to say a word to get us out of our current predicament. At this time, a sarcastic voice sounded. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked towards the source of the voice, and saw Master Shen coldly looking at him. Qin Feiyang said, "What do you want to say?" Master Shen said coldly, "What I want to say is that you are no different from the state preceptor. You both want to enslave us and make us work for you." Hearing this, Qin Feiyang didn't say anything, but Wang Yangfeng was afraid of angering Qin Feiyang. She turned to stare at Master Shen and shouted, "Shut up! Old ancestor! I am telling the truth. None of these people are good. Don't be confused by his flowery words." Master Shen said anxiously. "Whether he is a good person or not, this old man has his own decision. It is not your turn to interrupt." Wang Yangfeng shouted. "You," Master Shen was extremely angry and said coldly, "Do as you wish. Anyway, I will not follow him. I don't believe that without his protection, with my strength as a 5-star combat emperor, I can't find a place for myself in the great Qin Empire. You can do whatever you want. I won't accompany you, goodbye." After saying that. Chapter 1245. Where are you going? Wang Yangfeng raised his eyebrows and shouted. "It doesn't matter where I go, I'm free anyway." Master Crane said without turning his head. Qin Feiyang said lightly, "Are you really free?" Master Crane was stunned and stopped in the void. He turned around and stared at Qin Feiyang, and said gloomily, "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang laughed and said, "I mean, I'm afraid you are still far from freedom, because the Great Valley Master is still alive, and the blood-soul technique has not been lifted." What? Not only Master Crane's face changed, but even Wang Yangfeng and the others' faces also changed. If the blood-soul technique was not lifted, they would never be able to escape the control of the Great Valley Master. Did you see that? He left a trick up his sleeve in order to blackmail us into submission. Master Crane roared. "Don't talk nonsense." Wang Yangfeng was furious. He was really afraid that Master Crane would anger Qin Feiyang, and when Qin Feiyang was angry, he would let the Great Valley Master kill all of them. Master Crane's face sank, and a shocking light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and said to Wang Yangfeng, "Old Wang, I don't think we can keep this person alive." Wang Yangfeng was surprised and asked, "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang said, "Although Master Crane is a person of this village, he has changed. He has become bloodthirsty and doesn't recognize his relatives." "Nonsense!" Master Crane shouted angrily and looked at Wang Yangfeng, "Old ancestor, don't believe his nonsense, he is sowing discord." "Sowing discord? Do I need to go through so much trouble for a small character like you? Don't take yourself too seriously." Qin Feiyang smiled contemptuously. "Young Master Qin, what do you mean by this?" Wang Yangfeng asked. "That day when he came to the village to recruit disciples, I saw with my own eyes that he used the Emperor's power to kill an 11 or 12-year-old boy." Qin Feiyang said. "What?" Wang Yangfeng was stunned, turned to look at Master Crane, and said angrily, "Is this true?" The others also glared at each other. Master Shen looked flustered. He quickly waved his hand and said, "No, he is lying." "Lie." Everyone in the village saw it with their own eyes. "At first, I thought that you weren't from this village, so you didn't care about their lives. But in the end, Wang Shan told me that other than the First Valley Master and Second Valley Master, everyone in the underground world is from this village. Do you know how shocked I was? You took advantage of their ignorance and killed the innocent. Let me tell you, if it wasn't because I wanted to find that underground world, I would have killed you." Killing intent surged in Qin Feiyang's eyes. "Is this true?" Wang Yangfeng looked at the villagers and asked. Everyone nodded in agreement. "Damn it!" Wang Yangfeng flew into a rage. She turned to stare at Master Shen and roared, "Everyone in the village is our family. How can you do this to them? I didn't, Master Shen was still quibbling. It was you who killed our son. The dead boy's parents ran out of the crowd and roared at Master Shen. Haha, Master Shen laughed. He laughed crazily. Yes. I have changed. When I was young, the village was my everything. For the village, I could even give up my life. But when I entered the so-called immortal sect, when I found out the truth, when I stepped into the path of cultivation, I realized that the world was so ruthless and cruel. I refused to accept it. Why should my fate be controlled by others? Slowly, I began to hate this world. I hated everyone around me. In the end, this hatred turned into hatred. Finally, one day, the first Valley Master asked me to recruit disciples. When I returned to the village again, I found that everything had changed, everyone couldn't recognize me, and I couldn't recognize them either. My former relatives, friends, and brothers had already died in the long river of time. I searched the entire village, but I couldn't find a familiar face. I hate it. I need to vent it. I still remember that on the first day I returned to the village, I killed dozens of children in front of all the villagers. The key point was that they didn't resist, and they didn't complain at all. Do you know how happy I was at that time? I could finally play with others. I'm not afraid to tell you that in the past 200 or 300 years, the villagers who died in my hands were a group of trash. So what if I killed them? Master Shen laughed wildly, and his eyes were full of contempt. Wang Yangfeng looked up to the sky and roared. His hands were tightly clenched together, and his nails sank into his flesh, causing blood to flow. His face was full of pain. What are you roaring for? Don't you know that the person who deserves to die the most is you? You are the ancestor of this village, but what have you done? Master Shen roared hysterically. Puff! When Wang Yangfeng heard this, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. Although the ancestor didn't stand up to protect everyone all these years, there is one thing that no one can deny. He didn't hurt any of the villagers. A red-haired old man walked out and stood in front of Wang Yangfeng, looking at Master Shen. He was one of the dozen 9-star combat emperors. That's right. For thousands of years, the ancestor has been blaming himself for not being able to protect everyone. The ancestor also hates himself. But what he hates is not the villagers, not the people around him, but himself. He hates the first Valley Master and second Valley Master. You have lost your humanity, and you don't deserve to live in this world anymore. I'll give you a chance to repent, kill yourself. The other dozen 9-star combat emperors also stood out and looked at Master Shen indifferently. It will never be possible. Master Shen sneered, turned around and fled into the sky above the sea like lightning. Humph! The red-haired old man snorted coldly, took a step forward, and stood in front of Master Shen. Master Shen roared in exasperation, "Is it worth it to kill me for those trash? They're not trash, they're family, our family." The red-haired old man said expressionlessly, and slapped Master Shen's chest. Crash! However, at this time, the sea below set off terrifying huge waves, and 4 figures swept out from the huge waves, sending the red-haired old man flying with a palm, and left with Master Shen without looking back. The red-haired old man was furious, and after stabilizing his body, he immediately chased after them. Wang Yangfeng and the others were also ready to chase. Don't chase. Qin Feiyang said at this time. Everyone looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang stared at the backs of the 4 people, and said, "They are also 9-star combat emperors, they can't catch up, but it's also impossible for Master Shen to escape." With a thought, the first Valley Master appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang said, "Immediately destroy Master Shen's bloodline power." The first Valley Master shook his head and said, "My Qi has been destroyed by you, I can't use the blood soul technique." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. "You're lying." But at this time, Lu Jing said, staring coldly at the First Valley Master. N. The First Valley Master's body stiffened, and he turned to look at Lu Zheng. Lu Zheng said, "The blood-soul technique is not a battle art, nor a divine art. It is a secret technique that doesn't require battle chi to activate." "How do you know?" The First Valley Master was surprised. "In this world, you're not the only one who knows the blood-soul technique." Lu Zheng sneered. The next moment, he waved his hand, and a wave of battle chi emerged. Before anyone could react, he directly cut off the First Valley Master's head, and the blood spurted several meters away. This scene immediately caused Wang Xiaojie and the villagers to turn pale. "Why kill him? Since he's lying, then he must be hiding something from us," Lu Hong said discontentedly. Lu Zheng said, "If we don't kill him, what if he destroys everyone's bloodline power? How dare he?" Lu Hong frowned. Lu Zheng said helplessly, "Hong, you've been in the Jianghu for so many years. How can you still be so naive? Haven't you heard of the saying, a cornered dog will do something desperate? Why don't I accompany you to the ends of the world in the future? This way, I can shelter you from the wind and rain and distinguish between good and evil. Do I know you well?" Lu Hong glared at him. "Just because we don't know each other now doesn't mean we won't know each other in the future. Maybe we'll blossom in the future." Lu Zheng chuckled. "Get lost." Lu Hong's face was dark, and her veins were bulging. The more he said, the more ridiculous it was. Lu Zheng smiled embarrassedly, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Little cousin, why didn't you tell me that the First Valley Master is still alive? Do you know how dangerous this is? Fortunately, the castle can block the connection of the blood-soul technique. Otherwise, these people would be dead by now. You didn't tell me in advance that the blood-soul technique can be activated without battle chi." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. "You didn't ask. If you asked, I would have told you," Lu Zheng said. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead, looked at Wang Yangfeng and others, and said, "The First Valley Master is dead, and the blood-soul technique is broken. You are free." Hearing this, everyone couldn't help cheering. Some people even squatted on the ground, holding their heads and crying bitterly. "By the way, Mr. Qin, who are the 4 people who rescued Master Shen? Why haven't I seen them before?" Wang Yangfeng asked suspiciously. "They are the descendants of the state preceptor." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. "That's right. The people who rescued Master Shen were the 4 people who rescued the state preceptor. But why were they here?" Qin Feiyang turned to look at Wang Yangfeng and asked, "Before I came, did Master Shen leave?" "Leave?" Wang Yangfeng was stunned and shook her head, "I didn't pay attention." The others also shook their heads. "He did leave. I saw it with my own eyes." At this moment, Wang Xiaojie ran to Qin Feiyang and said. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Yangfeng and others and said, "It seems that he secretly sent a message to the state preceptor when you weren't paying attention." This bastard, Wang Yangfeng was furious. "He has completely fallen. If you have a chance, you'd better get rid of him. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble." Qin Feiyang said. "Understood." Wang Yangfeng nodded. Qin Feiyang glanced at the crowd and said, "You are free. I can't force you. Now, tell me whether you want to follow me or not." Everyone lowered their heads and remained silent. I, Wang Xiaojie couldn't wait to raise his hand. With a red face, he shouted, "Brother Jiang, accept me. I can do anything, such as serving tea, cooking, washing, don't mess around." Chapter 1246. Sister, I'm not messing around. I really want to learn cultivation from Brother Jiang Fei and the others. Wang Xiaojie struggled desperately. "You're still messing around? Don't you see that there are so many big shots present? I understand why you want to learn cultivation, but you have to wait until Jiang Fei is done with his work. If you mess around like this now, not only will it not work, but it will also annoy him. Wang Jin whispered. Hearing this, Wang Xiaojie immediately became obedient. Although you have obtained freedom, you still have no choice. At this moment, Lu Zheng looked at Wang Yangfeng and the others. Wang Yangfeng and the others frowned and looked up at Lu Zheng, looking a little displeased. Although the Grand Valley Master Sea of Qi has been destroyed, when Qin Feiyang took him out of the ancient castle just now, he could have destroyed all of your bloodline power immediately. But do you know why he didn't do that? Lu Zheng asked. Why? Wang Yangfeng frowned. Because you are the men of sacrifice trained by the Imperial Preceptor. He is looking for an opportunity to bring you back to the Imperial Preceptor. And you have seen the forces controlled by the Imperial Preceptor. A few of his descendants are 9-star combat emperors. In fact, this is not a big deal. He also controls the law enforcement hall, and the people inside are all combat emperors. In the face of such an Imperial Preceptor, are you confident that you can escape from his pursuit? I can tell you very responsibly that without Qin Feiyang's protection, you can't escape from his evil clutches at all. Lu Zheng sneered. Wang Yangfeng and the others looked at each other. It seemed that the Imperial Preceptor they knew was just the tip of the iceberg. Wang Yangfeng glanced at Lu Zheng, then looked at Qin Feiyang. She cupped her hands and said, "May I ask, what is the relationship between young Master Qin and the Imperial Preceptor?" Qin Feiyang said, "We had a good relationship when we were young, but now we have fallen out and are irreconcilable." Wang Yangfeng pondered for a while, then took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "If young Master Qin can really treat each of us well, I am willing to lead everyone to follow you. I swear, if I can't do it, may the heavens strike me down." Qin Feiyang said. "Greetings, young master." Wang Yangfeng immediately got down on one knee and said respectfully. He was a decisive person. The red-haired old man and the others looked at each other and knelt down in unison. "Greetings, young master." Since Wang Yangfeng and the group of 9-star combat emperors had all surrendered, the others naturally had no objections. They all knelt on the ground. Qin Feiyang placed his hands behind his back and glanced at the group of people. A bright smile gradually crept onto his face. With the addition of this group of people, his foundation had undoubtedly soared. Now, as long as a few more false gods were born, he would have the capital to contend with the Imperial Palace and the main tower. Until then, the Forgotten Continent and the Great Qin Empire would no longer belong to the Imperial Palace and the main tower, as well as him, Qin Feiyang. Wang Yangfeng stood up and asked, "Young master, where do you plan to settle us down? You all know that place." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and everyone on the island instantly disappeared. Inside the ancient pagoda, the underground world was still there. Towering mountains and lofty ridges, fierce beasts galloping. On a plain, tens of thousands of people suddenly appeared. It was Qin Feiyang and his group. "This place is, appearing here again," Wang Yangfeng and the others' faces changed drastically. Qin Feiyang said, "Don't worry, this place is now under my control. You can live here without worry." Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. "All right. Everyone, quickly rebuild your home. Elder Wang, come with me for a moment. I have something to ask you." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he walked towards the forest at the side. Wang Yangfeng hurriedly followed. Lu Hong and Lu Zheng curiously looked at the environment inside the ancient pagoda and also followed. A moment later, Qin Feiyang entered the forest and sat on a bluestone. "What does young master want to ask?" Wang Yangfeng stood in front of Qin Feiyang and asked. Qin Feiyang said, "Do any of you know the formula of the blood demon pill?" Wang Yangfeng shook his head and said, "In the past, the blood demon pill was personally refined by the second Valley Master. Then do you know what the blood demon pill is refined with? Qin Feiyang said. I don't know. Wang Yangfeng said. Human flesh and blood. Qin Feiyang said. What? Wang Yangfeng's face turned pale. The blood demon pill is a taboo. No matter where it is forbidden to refine it. So from now on, I don't want to see you take the blood demon pill anymore. And you should have a lot of blood demon pills left now. When you go back, you have to destroy all of them. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. Wang Yangfeng said respectfully. I'm not joking. You have to destroy all of them. If I find that someone is secretly hiding the blood demon pill, even if there's only one, I won't show mercy. Qin Feiyang said. Understood. Wang Yangfeng nodded. Although I don't have the blood demon pill, I will train a group of alchemists as soon as possible. By then, you won't lack battle chi pills. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Wang Yangfeng said, our village has produced many alchemists over the years, but we don't have a lot of medicinal herbs. That's for the best. As for the medicinal herbs, I will think of a way. Now, tell me in detail the specific strength of your people. For example, how many 9-star combat emperors are there? Qin Feiyang said. Wang Yangfeng pondered for a moment and said proudly, the overall strength of our village is quite good. Really? Qin Feiyang was looking forward to it. Now, including me, our village has a total of 18 9-star combat emperors and 156 8-star combat emperors. As for the 7-star combat emperors, there are more than 500 of them. Wang Yangfeng said with a smile. So many. Lu Hong was dumbfounded. Qin Feiyang was also quite surprised and asked, how many people are there from 1-star combat emperors to 6-star combat emperors? Wang Yangfeng said, roughly estimated, more than 2,000 people, and more than 3,000 people below the combat sage. More than 2,000 combat emperors. This time, even Qin Feiyang couldn't stay calm. Thinking back, in their small team, there was only one combat emperor, Yan Wei. Later, there were the 10 heroes of Qinghai. And this time, there were actually more than 2,000 combat emperors. He was about to faint. Isn't it just more than 2,000 combat emperors? What's there to fuss about? What a country bumpkin. However, looking at Qin Feiyang's silly look, Lu Jing suddenly said with disdain. Qin Feiyang wasn't angry. He chuckled and said, their village has only existed for a few thousand years. Naturally, it can't be compared to your Lu family. Lu family? Wang Yangfeng looked at Lu Jing curiously. Lu Jing said proudly, our Lu family has tens of thousands of years of history. Wang Yangfeng's gaze trembled. With tens of thousands of years of history, there was actually such an ancient family in the world. Unbelievable. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Yangfeng and asked, how long have you been a 9-star combat emperor? Very long. I remember that I broke through more than 500 years ago. Wang Yangfeng said. What? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. Lu Hong's face was also filled with shock. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, if you broke through more than 500 years ago, why haven't you stepped into the combat god realm yet? I don't know either. But I heard from the Grand Valley Master that it's very difficult to break through to the combat god realm. He said that 1 in 10,000 people. Wang Yangfeng said. 1 in 10,000 people. Ridiculous. He has no idea how difficult it is to break through to the combat god realm. Let me tell you, it's already very rare for one person to step into the combat god realm in 10 million people. There are many people in this world who are trapped to death in the 9-star combat emperor realm. Lu Jing snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang said, since you know so much, then do you know how to break through to the combat god realm? I don't know. Lu Jing shook his head and said helplessly, I've asked second grandpa before, but not only did he not tell me, he even scolded me. Young people shouldn't bite off more than they can chew. I have to be down to earth. It's very annoying. It seems that it's really not easy to step into the combat god realm. Qin Feiyang whispered. It's not just not easy. It's even harder than ascending to the sky. Otherwise, there wouldn't be no combat gods in this world now. They're all fake gods. Lu Zheng's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, I don't agree with that. Although there are indeed very few combat gods, it's not like there are none. Who? Lu Zheng was surprised. A snow python. Back then, when the Imperial Preceptor was under her hands, he didn't have the slightest ability to resist. I think she must be a true combat god. Other than her, there's another person. That's my uncle. Qin Feiyang laughed. When he was young, he had guessed that Uncle Yuan might be the War Emperor. However, when he stepped into the War Emperor, he realized that Uncle Yuan was even stronger than he had imagined. Until now, he was still unable to see through Uncle Yuan's strength. But from Uncle Yuan's attitude towards the Emperor, it wasn't hard to imagine. Because back then in the Imperial Palace, Uncle Yuan had mercilessly slapped the Emperor in front of everyone. Moreover, regardless of whether it was facing the State Preceptor or facing Mu Tianyang, Yuan Bo had an aloof and fearless attitude. This was enough to show that his true strength was definitely not inferior to the Imperial Preceptor and Mu Tianyang. The Imperial Preceptor was only a fake god. But when Mu Tianyang was at his peak, he was a true combat god. Qin Yuan, Snow Python. At the same time, hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Lu Zheng muttered to himself, his eyes flashing with an imperceptible light. Wang Yangfeng, on the other hand, had a face full of shock. In his opinion, a fake god was already inconceivable, but he didn't expect that a true combat god would actually exist in this world. Right. I forgot to tell you. Uncle Yuan came before. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Hong and said. When? Lu Hong was stunned and asked anxiously. Qin Feiyang said, when Renduxing and I were dealing with the Imperial Preceptor, but he has already left. It's a pity that I didn't get to see his glory. Lu Hong shook her head and sighed. There will be a chance in the future. Qin Feiyang laughed. Why did Qin Yuan come to find you? Lu Zheng suddenly asked. Qin Feiyang said, it's nothing, I just came to visit everyone. It seems that you have deep feelings for him. Chapter 1247. Of course. Ever since I was expelled from the Imperial Palace, it was Uncle Yuan who accompanied me and enlightened me. I've always treated him as my biological grandfather. Qin Feiyang said. He not only respected Uncle Yuan but also appreciated him. Do you mean that when you were in trouble, our Lu family didn't accompany you or enlighten me, and you treated us as strangers? Lu Zheng frowned. You're thinking too much. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. This guy really knew how to make a connection. I think that's what you're thinking. Lu Zheng pursed his lips. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel helpless. He looked at Wang Yangfeng and said with a smile, go and do your work. Okay. Wang Yangfeng nodded. Wait. Qin Feiyang said. Is there anything else? Wang Yangfeng looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, when you build your home, give me an open space in the middle. An open space? Wang Yangfeng was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, just do as I say. How big should it be? Wang Yangfeng asked. It's best if it's big. Qin Feiyang said. Understood. Wang Yangfeng nodded and turned to leave. What are you up to? Lu Hong was suspicious. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the tree of creation emerged. What's this? Lu Hong looked at the tree of creation curiously. However, Lu Zheng's eyes flashed with a bright light. Looking at Lu Zheng's eyes, Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and asked, "You know? Where did you get this?" Lu Zheng didn't answer but asked instead. Qin Feiyang said, "In the ancestral tomb." "Damn it! If I had known that there was a tree of creation inside, I wouldn't have listened to you and dug up the ancestral tomb." Lu Zheng was extremely upset. "What's a tree of creation?" Lu Hong asked. "The tree of creation is a divine tree. The energy it emits can change a person's physique. It's not an exaggeration to say that even an idiot can slowly become a cultivation genius." Lu Zheng said. "So magical?" Lu Hong was shocked. "It's that magical." Lu Zheng sighed helplessly. He had actually brushed past such a divine tree. It was too late for regrets. Lu Hong could not help but laugh. She turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked, "So, that empty space is reserved for the tree of creation?" Qin Feiyang nodded and put away the tree of fortune. He pondered for a while and said, "Although the tree of fortune can change their physique, the most important thing is still the herbs. This is indeed a difficult problem." Lu Hong said. In the past, they didn't have many people, so any random medicinal herbs would be enough for them to use for a while. But now, there were more than 10,000 people. Furthermore, there were more than 2,000 battle emperors. The amount of medicinal herbs needed for this was not a small amount. Suddenly, Lu Hong seemed to have thought of something. She raised her head and scanned the surroundings. Then, she looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Look at how big this place is. We can definitely open up a medicinal field here." Medicinal field. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. This suggestion was good. He had such an idea before, but there was no other way. The ancient castle could not grow medicinal herbs. The ancient pagoda was different. Not only was the space big, but there were also mountains and rivers here. It could be used to grow medicinal herbs. "Do you know how big this space is?" Lu Hong asked. "I didn't know before, but after dripping blood to recognize it as the owner, I knew that the diameter of this place is a whole 100,000 miles. Qin Feiyang said. So big, Lu Hong was dumbfounded. Compared to this ancient pagoda, the ancient castle was simply a world of difference. Brother Jiang Fei. At this moment, Wang Xiaojie ran over. Wang Jin followed closely behind him. The situation is tense, retreat. Upon seeing Wang Jin, Lu Jing hurriedly turned around and ran as if he had seen a ghost. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Lu Hong covered her mouth and laughed. You don't know, during the 4 months you were in seclusion, Wang Jin went to look for him every day. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and gloated. This is called trouble comes from the mouth. Let's see if he dares to talk nonsense in the future. Brother Jiang Fei. A moment later. Wang Xiaojie panted as he ran to Qin Feiyang's side. His small face was completely red. Greetings, young Master Qin. Wang Jin bowed. N. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. A few months had passed. Wang Jin had also completely walked out of the shadows. Lu Hong rubbed Wang Xiaojie's little head and said with a smile, his real name is Qin Feiyang, you can't call him Jiang Fei in the future, understand? Got it. Wang Xiaojie nodded. Looking at Qin Feiyang, he suddenly knelt on the ground and begged, please, teach me how to cultivate. Xiaojie, don't mess around. Wang Jin hurriedly scolded. It's fine. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. He lowered his head to look at Wang Xiaojie and said, the people from your village have all returned. Many of them are stronger than me. Why don't you look for them? Why do you have to look for me? I think you're stronger than them. Wang Xiaojie said. You have good taste. Lu Hong secretly gave him a thumbs up. Qin Feiyang glared at her and looked at Wang Xiaojie. Then what if I don't teach you? Wang Xiaojie thought for a moment and said, then I'll pester you until you teach me. This trick is useless against me. Qin Feiyang said. Then Wang Xiaojie stammered, gritted his teeth and said, then I'll kneel here and not get up. Sure. Then you can continue kneeling. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Wang Lin and the others appeared. He looked at Wang Jin and said, bring them back later. Wang Jin nodded. Qin Feiyang glanced at Wang Xiaojie, then led Lu Hong into the castle. Wang Jin looked at the place where Qin Feiyang disappeared, then looked at Wang Xiaojie and said, Xiaojie, young Master Qin doesn't want to teach you. Don't force yourself, okay? No. I must make him teach me. And I've decided. I want him to take me as his disciple. Wang Xiaojie said stubbornly. You. Wang Jin shook his head helplessly, then looked around. He did not see Lu Zheng's trace, and could not help but look disappointed. Inside the castle, Lu Hong looked at Qin Feiyang and said, such a sensible child, you have the heart to refuse. Didn't you hear that he wants me to take him as my disciple? I can't even take care of myself now, how can I have the time to care about him? Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. Lu Hong said, that child is also stubborn. If you don't agree, he might really kneel for a long time. If he really does that, it means that he is a person with perseverance. You can consider it. Qin Feiyang said, then walked to the altar and opened the 6-word divine formula. Whoosh whoosh. When he turned to the 4th page, the whole castle suddenly became violent. Caught off guard, Qin Feiyang, Lu Hong, Fatso, Wolf King and the other beasts were all swept up by the wind and crashed into the surrounding walls. Their bones were about to fall apart. What's going on? Everyone climbed up in a sorry state, firmly stabilized their bodies, and looked at the iron book in surprise. That violent wind came from the 4th page of the 6-word divine formula. Gradually, the violent wind dissipated. Qin Feiyang and the others walked closer to take a look, only to see that there was a golden word on the page. Line. Line formula. What does this mean? Everyone looked at each other. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and carefully looked at the annotations below. Very quickly, his face was filled with ecstasy. It turned out that the line formula was an auxiliary formula. In other words, the line formula could increase a person's speed like the phantom steps. But the line formula was faster than the phantom steps. According to the introduction, when the line formula was used to the limit, it could make a person disappear. Not to mention people of the same level, even people several levels higher than him would not be able to catch his trace. This speed was teleportation. Teleportation. Lu Hong frowned, people several levels higher can't even catch his trace. Isn't this too exaggerated? Return, battle, and kill. Which one isn't exaggerated? Fatso shook his head and sighed. How envious. When Boss mastered the line formula, he would be like a tiger with wings. The white-eyed wolf chuckled, Little Qin Zi, can you let me practice the line formula? Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. The white-eyed wolf was overjoyed. It immediately ran up excitedly, raised its paw, and pressed it on the line formula. Whoosh! Whoosh! A gust of wind suddenly blew it away. Fuck, the white-eyed wolf was furious. You can't blame me for this. It's not that I don't want to. It's that it doesn't want to. Qin Feiyang looked at it gloatingly. The white-eyed wolf pursed its lips. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He turned to look at the line formula, his eyes shining. The line formula had a total of 6 strokes. When he copied it, he would be able to break through to the 7-star combat emperor level. Not only would he be able to break through, but he would also be able to master a heaven-defying formula. It was a two-pronged approach. However, according to his previous experience, the battle force needed to copy this formula would definitely be more than the battle force needed to copy the kill formula. He looked at the bottom of the page again. There was a line of small words. You can only open the 5th page after becoming a war god. If I can only open the 5th page after becoming a war god, then what about the 6th page? Could it be that becoming a war god isn't the end? Qin Feiyang was surprised. He had always thought that becoming a war god was the pinnacle of this world. But now, it seemed that it wasn't that simple. If becoming a war god isn't the end, then what is? Fatso and the others were also thinking about this question. This line of small words was tantamount to overturning their worldview. Qin Feiyang shook his head. This matter was too far in the future. There was no need to think too much about it. He would think about it after becoming a war god. After calming down, he walked to the pill scripture, and directly flipped to the next page. However, there were only 4 types of pill formulas recorded on it. One was called the Spirit Concentrating Pill. The other was called the Spirit Concentrating Pill. The remaining 2 were called the Great Creation Pill and the 5 Elements Universe Pill. Ah! There are actually only 2 types of pills. Fatso and the others surrounded him, their faces full of surprise. Great Creation Pill. Lu Hong was stunned, and muttered, "Why does it sound the same as the Small Creation Pill?" Same. Qin Feiyang was startled, and looked at the detailed explanation below the Great Creation Pill. As expected. The effects of these 2 pills were exactly the same. They both opened the door to potential. The only difference was that the Small Creation Pill opened the extreme realm of the War Master and the extreme realm of the War Saint. The Great Creation Pill opened the extreme realm of the War Emperor. However, Chapter 1248. The Great Creation Pill required a total of 99 types of medicinal herbs. Every medicinal herb was extremely rare. Qin Feiyang had never even seen a single one of the top 5 medicinal herbs. They were the fruit of creation, white jade fruit, purple spirit flower, profound yang grass, and profound yin grass. Wait a minute. Fruit of creation. Why did it sound so familiar? Qin Feiyang frowned, and suddenly thought of the tree of creation. He hurriedly took out the tree of creation, looked at the 3 fruits on the top of the 3 branches, and then compared them one by one. In the end, he was wild with joy. These 3 fruits were exactly the same as the fruit of creation recorded in the pill scripture. So that's how it is. No wonder Ren Duxing said that these 3 fruits are of great use. It turns out that they are the main medicinal herbs to refine the Great Creation Pill. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. He had really picked up a huge bargain. However, he had never seen the white jade fruit, purple spirit flower, profound yang grass, and profound yin grass before. Fatso said, "It seems that refining the Great Creation Pill is not an easy task." Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. However, they didn't need the Great Creation Pill for the time being, so they weren't in a hurry. He looked at the 5 Elements Universe Pill again. At that moment, he was excited again. 5 Elements Universe Pill was a type of pill that could raise the cultivation of the War King. And just like the 9-turn Dragon Blood Pill, the more pill patterns there were, the higher the success rate. But there was a difference. 5 Elements Universe Pill, there were only 5 types of medicinal herbs. 10th Water Essence, 4th Fire Essence, Wood Essence, 6th Earth Essence, and 9th Gold Essence. According to the introduction, these 5 medicinal herbs were not flowers or plants, but 5 types of treasures that were naturally formed by heaven and earth. Each one was as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns, extremely rare. Fatso said helplessly, "Fat Lord has never heard of these damn things. This is the first time I've heard of it too." The winged snow eagle said. Actually, it's very easy to understand. For example, the sunflower water essence. In some extremely cold places, a type of water crystal will be born. This is the sunflower water essence. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Hong asked, so, these 5 medicinal herbs are related to metal, wood, water, fire, and earth? Yes. Kuei water essence represents water. Hellish gold essence represents gold. Wood essence represents wood. The essence of the earth represents earth. 4th fire essence represents fire. If you want to find these 5 medicinal herbs, you have to start from these things. Qin Feiyang said. That should be easy, right? After all, no matter where it is, there is fire, water, and so on. Lu Hong said. It's not that simple. The conditions for the formation of these 5 treasures are extremely harsh, and the process is extremely long. According to my knowledge, it requires at least 1,000 years. Qin Feiyang said. So long. Everyone was dumbfounded. Otherwise, why would they be called heavenly treasures? Qin Feiyang smiled. Fatso said, then let's take a look at the soul-condensing pill and soul-condensing pill. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked down. But at this moment, the image crystal rang. Fatso was puzzled, who would send you a message at this time? Qin Feiyang shook his head and took out the image crystal. Clatter. A strong figure quickly emerged. It turns out to be the commander of the Kirin army. Everyone smiled. Qin Feiyang, bad news. However, when he saw Qin Feiyang, the commander of the Kirin army immediately shouted, his face full of anxiety. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. Your mother is missing. The commander of the Kirin army said. What? Qin Feiyang's face changed abruptly. Fatso and Wolf King were also shocked. What's going on? Lu Hong asked. Not long ago, I went to the Violet Palace to visit the Empress, but I found that she was not in the palace. I thought she just went out to relax, but when I searched the entire Violet Palace, I didn't see her. Later, I asked the guards at the gate, and they said that they didn't see the Empress come out. The commander of the Kirin army said. Qin Feiyang roared, then continue to search. The commander of the Kirin army said, yes, we searched the entire imperial palace, but we didn't see the Empress. Qin Feiyang's heart sank, and said, does the emperor know? Such a big thing, of course he knows. He also sent people to look for her, but they didn't find her. He is now suspecting that you broke into the Violet Palace and saved the Empress. The commander of the Kirin army said in a deep voice. If mother was willing to go with me, I would have taken her away long ago, why wait until now? Qin Feiyang was furious. The commander of the Kirin army said, I also said the same to His Majesty, but His Majesty didn't listen. He still thinks that you are the most suspicious. Damn it. Qin Feiyang's eyes were hazy. You also have to think of a way. I will continue to search, and I will inform you immediately if there is any news. After the commander of the Kirin army finished speaking, the phantom image disappeared. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Lu Hong comforted him, don't worry, Auntie is smart and capable, and she is also very strong. She will not be in danger. Mother is the person I care about the most in this world, how can I not worry? No, I have to go back to the imperial city immediately. Qin Feiyang said. What can you do if you go back now? You can't do anything, and you will be hunted down by the emperor. Lu Hong hurriedly said. Yes. Just now, the commander of the Kirin army also said that the emperor is suspicious of you. If you go back now, you will be walking into a trap. Don't be rash. I believe that Auntie will be fine. Fatso said. You don't know my mother. She is a person who sees the big picture, and she will never leave the Violet Light Palace without saying anything. Qin Feiyang said solemnly. Lu Hong said, then do you think it has something to do with it? You don't say, it is really possible. This time, we destroyed his nest, took away the ancient pagoda and the tree of creation, and even destroyed his divine artifact jade pendant. In the face of such a great loss, with his personality, he might really take the risk and kidnap your mother. Fatso said. Don't forget, there is another person who suffered a great loss this time, and that is Lu Xingqian. He also has the ability to kidnap Auntie easily. Wolf King said. Yes. It must be one of them. Lu Hong said. No matter who it is, they have completely enraged me this time. Qin Feiyang paused after every word, and the killing intent in his eyes surged. Then, he sent a message to Lu Xingqian. Soon. Lu Xingqian's shadow appeared. Qin Feiyang said, my mother is missing, do you know? Lu Xingqian said, I just received news from the spy. Did you do it? Qin Feiyang said. You suspect me? Although you killed Ren Duxing, I won't kidnap your mother to threaten you. I can tell you very responsibly that this has nothing to do with me. Lu Xingqian said. Qin Feiyang said, then ask Mu Qin to use the all-seeing eye to see where my mother is now. Do you think Mu Qin will help you now? Lu Xingqian said lightly. You can state your conditions. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Xingqian said, that's what you said. That ancient pagoda should be in your hands now. I want you to give it to me immediately. Don't go too far. The ancient pagoda is a space divine object. Why should I give it to you? Fatso said angrily. Lu Xingqian said, because the ancient pagoda is originally mine. Besides, between the ancient pagoda and Qin Feiyang's mother, I believe you know in your hearts who is more important. Fatso shouted, you are looting a burning house. Aren't you afraid that we will fall out with you? I'm afraid. But now, you are the one begging me, not the other way around. And our cooperation is to make use of each other and take what we need. Lu Xingqian smiled faintly. The fatty couldn't contain his anger. Enough, don't say anything else. Qin Feiyang reached out to stop Fatso. He looked at Lu Xingqian and said, do you think you can threaten me like this? Don't forget that I helped you hide your identity. That's right. If the Emperor and the State Preceptor know that you are also Mu Tianyang, what do you think will happen to you? Lu Hong sneered. Lu Xingqian raised his eyebrows. If you really want the ancient pagoda, I can give it to you. But I can guarantee that before tomorrow, your identity as Mu Tianyang will be known throughout the imperial capital. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Xingqian looked at Qin Feiyang, his expression uncertain. But in the end, he let out a long breath, shook his head, and sighed. To be honest, I'm beginning to regret cooperating with you. I can't get any advantage. Cut the crap. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, looking impatient. Fine. I'll immediately ask Mu Qin to open the all-seeing eye. After Lu Xingqian finished speaking, he turned off the image crystal. Qin Feiyang patiently waited quietly. Time passed breath by breath. About 100 breaths later, the image crystal in his hand buzzed again. Qin Feiyang quickly activated the image crystal. Lu Xingqian's shadow appeared and said, Mu Qin has seen it, but it seems to be isolated by something. I can't see your mother's exact location. What's the approximate location? Qin Feiyang said. The Sea of Reincarnation. Lu Xingqian said word by word. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. His mother was in the Sea of Reincarnation. I can only help you this much. You can solve the rest by yourself. Don't forget that the miracle is about to open. Don't stay in the Sea of Reincarnation for too long. Lu Xingqian said. Didn't you ask us to come to the Sea of Reincarnation? Lu Hong frowned. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Ren Duxing told me that Lu Xingchen asked us to come to the Sea of Reincarnation as a pretense. The real purpose is to let us find this village and then destroy the Imperial Preceptor's conspiracy. I see. Lu Hong nodded in realization. Qin Feiyang looked up at Lu Xingchen and said, "Since you are investigating the Imperial Preceptor, you should know that he has another nest." "I do know this, but I'm sorry, I didn't find the location of that nest," Lu Xingchen said. "I see." Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and turned off the image crystal. Lu Hong said, "It seems that Auntie was kidnapped by the Imperial Preceptor. Auntie is now in the Sea of Reincarnation. The Imperial Preceptor's descendants must be somewhere in the Sea of Reincarnation." Fatso asked, "The Sea of Reincarnation is too big. Where can we find them?" Lu Hong said, "The Sea of Reincarnation is big, but we are not the same as before." "You mean?" Fatso's eyes lit up. "Yes. Wang Yangfeng and the others. More than 2,000 combat emperors. It's enough to turn the Sea of Reincarnation upside down." Chapter 1249. Turn it upside down, Qin Feiyang muttered. Schwa. The next moment, he appeared in the ancient pagoda. Wang Jin had already left with Wang Lin and the other 8, leaving only Wang Xiaojie kneeling there alone. Seeing Qin Feiyang appear, Wang Xiaojie's spirit was lifted, and he hurriedly kowtowed. Disciple Wang Xiaojie greets master. He thought that Qin Feiyang had agreed to accept him as his disciple. However, Qin Feiyang didn't even look at him. Because right now, he wasn't in the mood to care about Wang Xiaojie. Qin Feiyang flew into the sky, stood high up in the sky, and shouted, "Elder Wang, quickly come over." Whoosh! Soon, accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, Wang Yangfeng landed in front of Qin Feiyang like lightning, and asked, "Young master, what's the matter?" Qin Feiyang said, "My mother was kidnapped by the imperial tutor and is now in the Sea of Reincarnation. Quickly gather all the War King and help me look for her." Wang Yangfeng's expression changed, he turned around and shouted, "All the War King in the village, quickly gather here." His voice was like a bell, resounding in all directions. Whoosh! At that moment, those War King who were busy building their homes immediately put down the things in their hands, flew into the sky, and flew over. In less than 50 breaths, all the combat emperors hurried over, forming a dense crowd. Everyone stood in the air and bowed, "Greetings, young master." Qin Feiyang nodded. Wang Yangfeng said in a deep voice, "Young master's mother, who is also our mistress, was kidnapped by the imperial tutor, so I specially gathered everyone to help." "What? Mistress was kidnapped? Isn't the imperial tutor too much? He won't even let a woman go." Everyone was filled with anger. The red-haired old man looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Young master, do you know where mistress is now?" "It's precisely because I don't know that I need your help." Qin Feiyang pointed his index finger in the air. His battle chi surged as a beautiful woman in white appeared in the air. He said, "She is my mother." Everyone looked up and memorized the appearance of the white-clothed woman in their hearts. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought everyone to the island. He warned, "The Sea of Reincarnation is extremely dangerous. It's best if you all form a group and search for it. No matter what happens, don't act on your own. In short, protecting your own lives is the most important thing. I don't want to see anyone die outside." "Yes." Everyone bowed in response, a warm current flowing in their hearts. If it was the previous First Valley Master and Second Valley Master, they would not have cared about their lives. Qin Feiyang said, "Elder Wang, stay behind. The rest of you can go first." Whoosh! His voice fell. Over 2,000 battle monarchs immediately scattered and disappeared into different directions. Wang Yangfeng looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Young master, do do you have something to tell me by asking me to stay? Qin Feiyang asked, do you all have image crystals? Yes. Wang Yangfeng nodded. Qin Feiyang said, then let's establish a contract bridge. If there's any news, you can inform me immediately. Okay. Wang Yangfeng took out the image crystal. After establishing the contract bridge, Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, Elder Wang, I'll leave it to you. You don't have to worry too much. Heaven helps the worthy. Mistress will definitely be fine. Wang Yangfeng smiled and comforted him. Then, he turned and streaked across the sky, disappearing at the end of the sea. Mother, Qin Feiyang looked at the sky, his hands tightly clenched together. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He opened a teleportation door and descended on top of a magnificent hall. The hall was decorated with dragons and phoenixes. It was magnificent. There was a golden plaque hanging on the door. The words, Throne Hall, were written with iron hooks and silver, vigorous and powerful. Around the hall, the Kirin army stood upright. Who is it? They also sensed Qin Feiyang's aura at the first moment. They all looked up in surprise. When they saw Qin Feiyang, their expressions suddenly changed, and they quickly retreated. Qin Feiyang stood in the sky, pointing his index finger at the throne hall. Battle chi surged at his fingertips. It was obvious that he wanted to destroy the throne hall again. Qin Feiyang, don't mess around. A violent roar sounded. The commander of the Kirin army flew over, his face full of anxiety. Qin Feiyang had already angered His Majesty when he destroyed the throne hall last time. If he destroyed it again, there would be no room for reconciliation between him and His Majesty. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. Boom! The battle chi on his fingertips rushed out and blasted into the throne hall. The newly renovated throne room was once again reduced to ashes. It's over. The commander of the Kirin army stopped in the void and muttered to himself. Qin Feiyang lowered his arm, looked up at the commander of the Kirin army, and disappeared instantly. In the imperial study. At this moment, the emperor was sitting in front of the desk with his head lowered, seriously reading the memorials. Below, the chief eunuch and several maids stood aside silently. Boom! Suddenly, the loud sound of the throne hall being destroyed was heard. The emperor raised his eyebrows, looked at the chief eunuch, and said, "Go out and see what's going on." "Yes." The chief eunuch responded, turned around, and walked out quickly. Oh no! But as soon as he walked out of the imperial study, a little eunuch rushed in with a pale face. "What's the fuss?" The chief eunuch shouted with dissatisfaction. The little eunuch shouted, "Chief, the throne hall was destroyed by Qin Feiyang again." The chief eunuch's face changed. At the same time, a cracking sound came from the imperial study. The chief eunuch's eyes trembled, and he quickly turned to look at the imperial study. He saw the emperor clenching his hands, his eyes gloomy, and the memorials in his hands had been smashed into pieces. As for those maids, they all had shocked expressions on their faces. "Got it, you can leave now." The chief eunuch waved to the little eunuch, and the chief eunuch trotted to the emperor's side and said, "Your Majesty, please calm down." The emperor slammed his hand on the desk, stood up suddenly, and shouted, "This is the second time, how can I not be angry? Does he still have any respect for me?" The chief eunuch said anxiously, "Your Majesty, please calm down, your health is more important." "I can't calm down." The emperor waved his hand angrily and was about to leave the imperial study. "Then let me help you vent your anger." At this moment, a sneer sounded, and Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air in the imperial study. The chief eunuch's face changed greatly, and he shouted, "Guards, get out." Qin Feiyang turned to look at him, and his eyes were as sharp as a knife, sharp and threatening. The chief eunuch swallowed his saliva and turned to look at the emperor. The emperor returned to the dragon throne and looked at Qin Feiyang gloomily. After a moment, he waved his hand and said, "All of you, get out." "Your Majesty, you can't," the chief eunuch hurriedly said. "Do you think he can kill me with that little bit of strength?" The emperor sneered. But, the chief eunuch was still worried. The emperor shouted, "I don't want to say it a second time, get out now." "Yes." The chief eunuch's face turned pale, and he hurriedly bowed in response. Then he turned around and walked out, and he whispered to the maids, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and leave." The maids were also shocked by the sudden appearance of Qin Feiyang. Hearing the chief eunuch shout, they quickly ran out with the chief eunuch. Qin Feiyang was now a taboo in the imperial palace, and they would change their faces if they heard of him, let alone see him in person. "Close the door as well," Qin Feiyang said without looking back. The chief eunuch, who had just walked out of the door, stiffened slightly and turned to close the door. A maid whispered, "Chief, what should we do? Qin Feiyang may do something bad to His Majesty." The chief eunuch pondered and said, "I'll stay here to observe the situation. You go and inform the state preceptor." "Okay." The maids nodded and immediately turned and ran away. In the study, the emperor sat on the dragon throne, put his hands on the desk, and said angrily, "What do you want?" Qin Feiyang said, "I should be the one asking you this question." "Asking me?" The emperor frowned. "Do you still remember what you said at the beginning? For 10 years, no one is allowed to hurt my mother and anyone related to me. Anyone who violates this will be killed without mercy." Qin Feiyang said. "Of course I do," the emperor said. Qin Feiyang shouted, "What about now? My mother has been taken away by a traitor. How are you going to explain it to me?" "Not bad, you know how to pretend to be a thief," the emperor sneered. Qin Feiyang said, "You don't really think that it was me who took my mother away, do you? If not you, who else could it be?" The emperor sneered. "Huh," Qin Feiyang laughed and said, "Then answer me first. Does the promise at the beginning still count?" "Of course." The emperor nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "In other words, no matter who took my mother away this time, you will kill them without mercy?" "A gentleman does not joke," the emperor said. "Good. Now I'll tell you that the one who took my mother away this time is none other than your teacher, the state preceptor of our great Qin Empire." Qin Feiyang said angrily. "Nonsense." The emperor was furious and said, "How can the state preceptor of a country do such a despicable thing? If you think that I will help you deal with the state preceptor, then you are gravely mistaken." Qin Feiyang shook his head and said lightly, "You don't even know what kind of people are around you. You are really pitiful. You don't have to worry about that. I know the people around me better than anyone." The emperor said expressionlessly. "Do you really know? Do you know what the state preceptor is plotting? Do you know that there is a green light above your head?" Qin Feiyang sneered. "What are you trying to say?" The emperor said angrily. "I have completely given up on you. There is nothing to say. This time I came to tell you that if you don't have the ability to protect my mother, then return her to me." Qin Feiyang said. The emperor said, "Her feet are on her body. She can leave if she wants to. I did not tie her up." Qin Feiyang was furious. If there was no restriction from the emperor, would his mother stay in the imperial palace? Boom! However, at this moment, a divine aura descended on the imperial study. It was obviously the state preceptor. Qin Feiyang suppressed his anger and looked coldly at the emperor, saying, "Do you know what your image in my mind is now? Incompetent, muddle-headed, the current you is not worthy of being the emperor of this country." After saying that, Qin Feiyang opened a portal and left. The emperor clenched his hands tightly together. Since he ascended the throne, except for when Uncle Yuan gave him a slap in public, no one dared to speak to him loudly, let alone call him muddle-headed and incompetent. Chapter 1250. Dong! Just as Qin Feiyang was about to leave, there was a knock on the door. The imperial study room was where the emperors of the past read memorials. No one was allowed to enter. This was the rule of the past dynasties. Therefore, even the state preceptor did not dare to barge in. "Come in." The emperor took a deep breath and said faintly. The state preceptor pushed the door and entered. He glanced at the imperial study room and asked doubtfully, "Your Majesty, I heard that Qin Feiyang is here. Where is he?" "He has left," the emperor said. The state preceptor's eyes flashed slightly and asked with concern, "He didn't do anything to you, right? Would he dare?" The emperor snorted. "It's good that you're fine." The state preceptor smiled and asked calmly, "What did he say to you?" The emperor said faintly, "What do you think he will say to me?" The state preceptor quickly lowered his head and bowed, "I dare not guess." The emperor said, "He told me that you were the one who kidnapped his mother." The state preceptor was stunned and quickly said, "Your Majesty, don't listen to his nonsense. Her Majesty's disappearance has nothing to do with me. This is purely a frame-up." "I know. You don't have to explain," the emperor said faintly. "Your Majesty is wise." The state preceptor bowed and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The emperor said, however, "Judging from Qin Feiyang's tone and attitude, it seems that he did not take his mother away. Your Majesty, don't be fooled by him. This boy is very good at disguising himself. This time, he might come to you to hide something," the state preceptor said. The emperor said, "As you see fit." The state preceptor's eyes flashed coldly and said, "We must quickly find a way to capture him. Otherwise, with his insidious and cunning personality, who knows what kind of trouble he will cause." The emperor was silent. The state preceptor said, "Your Majesty, you have been indulging him for a long time. It's time to be ruthless." The emperor let out a long sigh and said, "Then, I'll leave this matter to you." The state preceptor was secretly delighted. He bowed and said, "Your Majesty is wise. I will do my best to bring him to justice in the shortest time possible." The emperor nodded and waved his hand. "Go and get busy. Also, get someone to repair the throne room." "Yes." The imperial advisor replied respectfully and turned to leave the imperial study. He flew straight to the sky above a magnificent palace. The palace was dozens of feet tall and richly ornamented. It was inlaid with all kinds of jades, pearls, emeralds, and agates. It was extremely luxurious. Around them was a large garden. Hundreds of flowers were in full bloom, attracting bees and butterflies. Above the entrance of the palace, there were 3 bold words engraved on it. "The Imperial Advisor's Residence." That was right. This was the residence of the Imperial Tutor. Greetings to the Imperial Advisor. In front of the palace gate, there were 4 guards. When they saw the Imperial Tutor, they immediately knelt down to greet him. "Yes." The Imperial Tutor landed in front of the door and gently nodded. He asked, "Did anything unusual happen while I was away?" "No, everything is normal." One of the guards shook his head. "Very good. From now on, no one is allowed to enter this hall without my orders. Even if the concubines come, they have to inform me in advance." The Imperial Advisor said. "Yes." The 4 guards nodded in response. The Imperial Advisor glanced at the 4 of them and entered the hall, closing the door tightly. The decorations in the hall were also very luxurious. The Imperial Advisor sat on a dragon throne. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment before taking out an image crystal. Buzz! An illusory figure appeared. It was a middle-aged man. He was about 1.8 meters tall and had a tall figure. His eyebrows were sharp like swords. He wore a gorgeous purple-gold robe and his thick black hair draped over his shoulders. He exuded the arrogant aura of a superior. However, when he saw the imperial advisor, the middle-aged man immediately put down his arrogant attitude. He lowered his head and bowed. "Greetings to the patriarch." "Yes." The imperial advisor nodded and asked, "How is she now?" The middle-aged man said, "Don't worry. She is locked in the divine cave. No one can get close." "Very good. Now, His Majesty has given me full authority to deal with Qin Feiyang. I can do whatever I want. Immediately follow my plan. This time, I must make Qin Feiyang die in the Sea of Reincarnation." The imperial advisor sneered. "Understood." The middle-aged man nodded. His eyes flashed with cold light. He asked, "After this matter is done, what will you do with her?" "Kill her too," the imperial advisor said. The middle-aged man was shocked. The imperial advisor said, "The Lu family is no longer as glorious as before. You don't have to worry so much. Just do as I say." "Okay." The middle-aged man replied respectfully. The Sea of Reincarnation. On the island. Qin Feiyang stood on a reef and looked at the endless sea. He fell into deep self-blame and regret. If he had insisted on taking his mother away, this would not have happened at all. "Mother, nothing must happen to you." Qin Feiyang muttered to himself and entered the ancient castle to copy the Xin character formula. However, no matter what he did, he couldn't calm down. In his mind, there was always the shadow of his mother. In the end, he simply closed the iron book and walked back and forth in the castle. He was like an ant on a hot pan, anxious and restless. Lu Hong and the others looked at him. They all wanted to persuade him, but they didn't know how to. Fatty suddenly said, "Boss, I've thought about it. There's something that can't be delayed and should be done immediately." "What is it?" Qin Feiyang stopped and looked at him suspiciously. Lu Hong and the others also looked at him in confusion. Fatso said, "The imperial advisor's action this time can be regarded as a wake-up call for us. Although there is the emperor's imperial edict, the old master and the others are not really safe, so we must take precautions." "What do you mean?" Lu Hong asked. "Bring Ren Wushuang and the old master here immediately," Fatso said. Lu Hong nodded and turned to Qin Feiyang, saying, "Fatso's concern is not wrong. If the imperial advisor can take your mother away now, he can also take others away in the future." Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "I'll contact my sister first. After that." He took out the image crystal. But as soon as he took out the image crystal buzzed. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. His battle chi surged and the image crystal was revived. An illusionary figure appeared. It turned out to be the commander of the Kirin army. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang asked. The commander of the Kirin army said, "You are too reckless. How can you destroy the throne room again and again?" Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "You came to me just to tell me this?" The commander of the Kirin army said, "I just want to advise you not to be so reckless. Besides, I'm sorry that there is no news about the whereabouts of the Empress." Qin Feiyang said, "I already know where my mother is. You don't have to look for her anymore." "Where is she?" The commander of the Kirin army was overjoyed. This joy came from the bottom of his heart. Qin Feiyang said, "She is in the hands of the imperial advisor. Don't act rashly. I will find a way to save her." The commander of the Kirin army was shocked and hurriedly asked, "Do you have evidence?" "In this world, not everything needs evidence. You're too old-fashioned." After saying that, Qin Feiyang turned off the image crystal and sent a message to Ren Wushuang. After a while, Ren Wushuang's shadow finally appeared. "Sister," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Ren Wuxuang was about to scold him. The news that Qin Feiyang destroyed the throne room had already spread in the Empire City. Of course, she also knew about it. But suddenly, she found that Qin Feiyang's face was not right. She looked at Qin Feiyang carefully and asked, "Your face is so pale. Did something happen?" Although Qin Feiyang was smiling, she could see that it was just a forced smile. "Nothing." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Really?" Ren Wuxuang frowned. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. Ren Wuxuang asked, "Then why are you looking for me now?" Qin Feiyang said, "Go to the old master immediately and ask him to come and meet me. And Shen Mei, Dong Jingyang, Zhu Yu, and Tan Wu. If they are willing, bring them here too." Ren Wuxuang was stunned and said in a deep voice, "Don't lie to me. If nothing happened, would you let us go to you? Let's talk about it when you come." Qin Feiyang said. Ren Wuxuang said, "I don't care, but you know my grandfather's temper. I'm afraid he won't go with you." Qin Feiyang said, "Then tell him that Ren Duxing is with me." "What?" Ren Wuxuang's eyes trembled, and he said excitedly, "Father is really with you?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "Okay, I'll go to Grandpa right away." Ren Wuxuang said. "I'm in the Sea of Reincarnation now." Qin Feiyang said and gave Ren Wuxuang a coordinate. After Ren Wuxuang memorized the coordinate, the shadow quickly dissipated. Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal, lowered his head, and pondered for a while. He turned to Viper and Fatso and said, "You two take the space-time gate to the spiritual state and bring Uncle Yen and Aunt Shui here. Don't forget Ling Yunfei's mother." Fatso asked, "What about Yi and the mermaid princess?" Qin Feiyang was silent for a while and said, "Bring them here too." Although he didn't want to face the feelings of the two now, he didn't want the two of them to be used as bargaining chips by the Grand Preceptor in the future. "Okay." Fatso nodded. Qin Feiyang took out the space-time gate and handed it to Viper. Then, he sent the two of them out. On the island, the wind howled and the waves surged. Sea beasts roared as they rushed out from the waves. The big ones were comparable to mountains, and the small ones were like boulders. Their ferocious aura spread in all directions. Whoosh! Suddenly, 3 figures descended on the island. They were 2 men and a woman. The woman was in her 20s. She wore a snow-white floor-length dress. Her hair was like a waterfall, and her facial features were exquisite. She was like a fairy. That's right. She was Ren Wuxuang. There were 2 men, one old and one young. The old man had white hair and a white beard. He looked very old. The other man was a young man in black. His facial features were distinct, and his face was cold. He exuded a shocking aura. "Where is Qin Feiyang? Why don't I see him?" The old man looked around the island, his expression full of anxiety and anticipation. "Grandpa, don't worry. The coordinates that little brother gave me are definitely correct. He might be in the castle now." Ren Wuxuang comforted the old man. Then, he looked around and shouted, "Little brother, we're here. Can you hear us?" Before he finished speaking. Chapter 1251. Feiyang, the old master immediately stepped forward, grabbed Qin Feiyang's shoulder, and asked, "Where is he?" Ren Wuxuang was also looking forward to it. Qin Feiyang glanced at the two of them and said, "Uncle Ren is in the castle, but you have to be mentally prepared." "What do you mean?" The two of them were suspicious. Qin Feiyang didn't answer. He looked at the young man in black and said with a smile, "Dong Zhengyang, long time no see. Counting the time, we have indeed not seen each other for a long time." Dong Zhengyang nodded, feeling emotional. "Welcome," he said. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, "By the way, where are Shen Mei and the rest?" Shen Mei and Lu Xingchen are together. They said they don't want to trouble you. Zhu Yu disappeared and can't be found. As for Tan Wu, he said something inexplicable and asked me to tell you that it's the same anywhere. Ren Wuxuang said. It's the same anywhere, Qin Feiyang murmured and then shook his head with a smile. In fact, Tan Wu was hinting to him that although the imperial city was dangerous, no one could hurt him. Of course. He also believed in Tan Wu. After all, the person behind Tan Wu now was Uncle Yuan. However, Zhu Yu's disappearance made him a little puzzled. This woman, from the beginning until now, gave him the impression that she was mysterious and unfathomable. Wait a minute. Could it be related to Uncle Yuan? Qin Feiyang was surprised and doubtful. Zhu Yu had been nurturing him, but he and Zhu Yu were neither relatives nor friends. Why would she do this? She must have been entrusted by someone. In this world, the only people who really cared about him and had the ability to make Zhu Yu do this were only Uncle Yuan and his mother. His mother was in the capital all year round, so it was definitely not her. Then, only Uncle Yuan was left. Uncle Yuan, what have you done for me behind the scenes? Will I ever be able to repay your kindness to me in this lifetime? Qin Feiyang murmured. Who? After secretly exhaling, Qin Feiyang looked up at Ren Wuxuang and asked, how far have Shen Mei and Lu Xingchen progressed? I'm not sure either. Usually, when I asked her, she always changed the topic and refused to answer directly. Ren Wuxuang shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, as her good friend, you'd better persuade her to stay away from Lu Xingchen. Otherwise, she'll be the one who gets hurt in the end. What you're saying is that there's still a big problem with Lu Xingchen. Ren Wuxuang was bewildered. It's not very big, it's very big. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. The old man impatiently urged, can we talk about Lu Xingchen later? Qin Feiyang glanced at him, waved his hand, and led the three into the castle. Ren Duxing was lying in a corner of the castle at this moment. There was no breath in his body, and he was already dead. Father. Ren Wuxuang saw Ren Duxing immediately, and his body trembled slightly. Why was father lying on the ground? He couldn't have. Thinking of this, she hurriedly ran over, squatted on the ground, shook Ren Duxing's body, and shouted, Father, Grandpa and I are here, wake up, at the same time. The old man looked at Ren Duxing's body, and his eyes were trembling. Suddenly, his body shook violently and fell to the ground. Qin Feiyang hurriedly went up to support him. How could this be, Father, wake up, don't sleep anymore. Ren Wuxuang muttered to himself, and his face was full of disbelief. The old man on the side couldn't help but slowly clench his hands together, trying to control his emotions, and said in a low voice, Feiyang, tell me, what's going on? The greatest pain in the world was the death of a white-haired person. Qin Feiyang knew that the old man must be on the verge of collapse now. They had waited day and night for their son to come back with great difficulty, but in the end, what came back was an ice-cold corpse. No matter who it was, they would not be able to accept this kind of thing. Qin Feiyang looked at the two and said, it's a long story. Let's bury Uncle Ren first. The old man suddenly turned around, grabbed Qin Feiyang's shoulder, and roared, I want to know now, how did he die? Qin Feiyang wanted to say something, but stopped. Ren Wuxuang turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang, got up, and said to the old man, the dead should be respected. Grandpa, let's listen to little brother and bury father first. The old man stared at Qin Feiyang, but in the end, he let go of his hand and turned to Ren Wuxuang, saying, now that we are in the sea of reincarnation, where can we bury him? I have a place to bury Uncle Ren. Qin Feiyang said. Where? The old man and Ren Wuxuang looked at him and asked. Qin Feiyang walked over, picked up Ren Duxing's body, and appeared in the ancient pagoda with the old man and Ren Wuxuang. Master, when Wang Xiaojie saw Qin Feiyang appear, he immediately called out excitedly. But Qin Feiyang still ignored him, flew into the sky, and scanned the ground below. The old man and Ren Wuxuang also flew into the sky and stood beside him. Qin Feiyang said, "You can find a place to bury Uncle Ren here." The two of them scanned the mountain range below. "Over there." A moment later, Ren Wuxuang pointed to a giant mountain not far away. The giant mountain was more than 1,000 zhang tall, like a giant sword, towering into the sky. At the peak of the mountain, the wild grass was lush, and the trees were green. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded, took a step forward, and landed on the peak of the mountain. On the peak of the mountain, there was a black panther. Its body was more than 10 meters long, and its fur was as bright as silk. Its fist-sized fierce eyes flickered with an ominous light. And its cultivation was not simple. It was a 2-star combat emperor beast. But when it saw Qin Feiyang, the black panther was like a mouse seeing a cat. It curled up into a ball and trembled. Qin Feiyang looked at the black panther and said, "From now on, this is the forbidden area of the cemetery. You are in charge of guarding it, and don't let any ferocious beasts come near." "Yes." The black panther crawled on the ground and respectfully replied. If it was in the past, the old man and Ren Wuxuang would definitely find it unbelievable that he could even command an emperor beast. But now, they acted as if they did not see it. They scanned the peak of the mountain, looking for a place to bury him. Finally, the old man pointed to the cliff in the east, looked at Ren Wuxuang, and said, "When your father was young, he loved to watch the sunrise. Let's bury him there." "Okay." Ren Wuxuang nodded, took Ren Duxing's body from Qin Feiyang, and walked towards the cliff. Qin Feiyang did not follow. He stood beside the black panther and watched quietly. The black panther looked at the old man and Ren Wuxuang, and asked carefully, "Young master, who are they?" "Young master?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. The black panther said in fear, "I heard the people in the village call you that, so I also call you that. You won't be angry, right?" "Why would I be angry?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Frankly speaking, he was too happy. Because the Black Panther called him that, it was equivalent to surrendering to him in disguise. The Black Panther breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang looked at it in amusement, and said, "Am I very scary? Why are you so nervous?" No, it's not scary at all." The Black Panther quickly shook its huge head, but it did not dare to look directly at Qin Feiyang, obviously feeling guilty. Actually, not only it, all the ferocious beasts in the ancient tower were intimidated by Qin Feiyang. Without a doubt. All of this was because of the kill formula. Now in their eyes, Qin Feiyang was a demon that could not be provoked, and they kept a respectful distance from him. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, looked up at the back of Ren Wuxuang and the old man, and sighed, "They are the closest people to me, and this time, they are here to bury their loved ones." The Black Panther nodded in realization, and then said, "Young master, you just said that this place will be a forbidden area in the cemetery in the future. Will all the people who die in the future be buried here?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "Then won't I become a tomb guard?" The Black Panther said. "You don't want to?" Qin Feiyang asked. Yes, I'm very willing." The Black Panther's pupils shrank, and it smiled flatteringly. Qin Feiyang said, "Guard here well, and you will not be short of benefits." "Thank you, young master." The Black Panther was ecstatic. "Right. Who is the strongest among the ferocious beasts here?" Qin Feiyang said. The Black Panther said, "Thunder Leopard, it has the cultivation of a 9-star war emperor, and is our emperor." Thunder Leopard. Qin Feiyang was surprised. This Thunder Leopard was born with the ability to control thunder. Whether it was speed or attack power, they were both extremely powerful. It was said that, it also had the bloodline power of the Wind Thunder Leopard in its body. The Wind Thunder Leopard was said to be the mount of the thunder god in the distant past. It was a true divine beast. And the Thunder Leopard was one of the beasts that could easily transform into a Wind Thunder Leopard. Where is it entrenched? Qin Feiyang asked. The Black Panther thought for a moment, and said, in the deepest canyon in the south, but it has a very bad temper. In the past, when facing the Grand Valley Master and the Second Valley Master, it always ignored them. It has such a personality. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned his head to look at the old man and Ren Wuxuang, then closed his eyes and carefully sensed. Now. He was already the master of this ancient tower. Whether it was the people here or the beasts, he could find them all. Moreover. Now, as long as he willed it, no matter where it was, he could arrive there in an instant. As for the reason why the Grand Valley Master was unable to do this back then, was because the owner of the castle had always been the imperial advisor. There really is a Thunder Leopard. A moment later. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, and a light flashed in his eyes. He turned his head to look at the Black Panther and said in a low voice, "Look after them. If anything happens, inform me immediately." Okay. The Black Panther nodded. Shua. Before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang flashed and appeared above a canyon. The canyon was very large and surrounded by mountains. But there was nothing in the canyon. Not even a blade of grass. The entire canyon was submerged in a purple sea of thunder. And in the center of the canyon, a 5 to 6 meter long leopard was lying on the ground, dozing off with its eyes closed. Its fur was purple, and there were electric arcs flashing in its hair. It was extremely eye-catching. The purple sea of thunder in the canyon was released by it. Qin Feiyang looked at the thunder leopard for a while, and then looked at the purple sea of thunder around the thunder leopard. This sea of thunder was formed by strands of tiny thunder and lightning power intertwined. Each strand exuded an aura that could destroy the world. Even Qin Feiyang did not dare to approach it. Because the power of thunder and lightning was enough to instantly shatter his body and bones. If I can take the Thunder Leopard of the 9-star War Emperor for my own use, then when I rescue my mother, I will undoubtedly have another great help. Chapter 1252. You'd better not touch it. But at this moment, Lei Bao, who was lying in the middle of the sea of lightning, suddenly made a sound. Qin Feiyang was shocked and looked down. Although Lei Bao was talking, he did not open his eyes and did not even raise his head to look at him. What a proud and aloof fellow. Qin Feiyang muttered. His finger, which had stopped in the air, suddenly moved forward and seamlessly made contact with a strand of electric energy. Suck. Immediately. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath. This was caused by the intense pain. The moment his fingertip made contact with the lightning power, his skin and flesh split open and blood flowed out. He did not dare to be negligent and immediately retracted his arm. The purple gold dragon blood and the life force contained in the fire of life in his body immediately healed his wound at a speed visible to the naked eye. Swoosh! At the same time, Lei Bao suddenly opened his eyes, revealing two purple fierce eyes. He raised his head and stared at Qin Feiyang. To be exact, he was staring at Qin Feiyang's fingertip, his eyes filled with disbelief. One must know that he had the cultivation of a 9-star battle emperor. And these lightning powers, each wisp had the power of a 9-star battle emperor. It was not an exaggeration to say that even a 9-star battle emperor of the same realm would not be able to escape unscathed if he accidentally touched the lightning power. However, this person, a mere 1-star battle emperor, only had his skin and flesh split open. Even his bones were not damaged. Not bad. Qin Feiyang looked at his fingertip and examined Lei Bao. He said, "From now on, you are my mount." Mount? Lei Bao was stunned. He slowly stood up and stared at Qin Feiyang. He said, "Say that again." His eyes flashed with a terrifying light. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "From now on, you are my mount." Courting death. Lei Bao flew into the sky and stood in front of Qin Feiyang. He sneered, "Back then, the first Valley Master and second Valley Master also wanted me to be their mount. But do you know what happened to them?" Qin Feiyang said, "It has something to do with me." "Of course. Because very soon, you will also end up like them." Back then, they were all beaten to the point of kneeling and begging for forgiveness by this emperor. The thunder leopard bared its fangs, roared, and pounced at Qin Feiyang. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang flickered and appeared several li away in an instant without any warning. It was as if he had teleported. Actually, this was equivalent to teleportation. Because in the ancient pagoda, with just a thought, he could go to anything. Lei Bao was surprised. Qin Feiyang said, "You still don't know. This place is now my territory." "So what?" Lei Bao smiled disdainfully and turned into a purple lightning bolt. In a few blinks of an eye, he arrived in front of Qin Feiyang. So fast. Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. But so what? In the ancient pagoda, no one could compete with him in speed. Whoosh! With a thought, he disappeared again and appeared several li behind Lei Bao. Lei Bao was about to go crazy. He turned around and stared at Qin Feiyang, saying, "If you have the guts, let's fight face to face. If this emperor loses, this emperor will do as you wish and be your mount. But if you lose, don't bother me in the future. Let's fight." Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Lei Bao said disdainfully, "This emperor will not bully you. This emperor will suppress his cultivation to the same level as yours." Hearing this, Qin Feiyang sneered. "What do you mean by that look?" Lei Bao raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang said coldly, "It seems that you really don't know my methods. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said such stupid words like suppressing your realm." "Stupid words? Brat, this emperor knows your methods. Even the great Valley Master and the others are not your match. But you have to be clear that this emperor is not someone that those two trash can compare to." Lei Bao roared into the sky, and his cultivation plummeted. In the blink of an eye, he was controlled to be a one-star war emperor. Roar! Following closely. Accompanied by a deafening roar, Lei Bao charged towards Qin Feiyang with a surging ferocious aura. Boom! Qin Feiyang's gaze turned cold. Without saying a single word, his aura exploded as he charged forward. Boom! In the blink of an eye, a man and a beast collided in the air. A world-destroying aura immediately surged out in all directions like a torrent. The nearby giant peaks were instantly reduced to ashes. With a single collision, it was comparable to destroying the heavens and earth. A man and a beast also retreated at the same time, with a trace of blood dripping from the corner of their mouths. "Follow me." Qin Feiyang glanced at the destroyed mountains and rivers. His eyes flashed with a cold light as he flew towards the clouds. Reckless human. Lei Bao laughed coldly and followed closely behind Qin Feiyang. His terrifying aura shook the clouds. He flew high into the sky. Qin Feiyang stopped and turned to look at Lei Bao. At this moment, he had activated the battle formula. His battle intent was overwhelming, as if a god of war had descended to the world, overlooking all living beings. Lei Bao looked at Qin Feiyang and felt a faint sense of oppression. A mere human can actually make me have such an illusion. How ridiculous. Lei Bao's pride did not allow him to fear humans. The next moment, Lei Bao stood up and turned into a human-shaped beast with surging battle aura. He pounced on Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang did not retreat at all. He raised his fist and smashed it towards Lei Bao. This was a battle without battle aura or battle formula. Bang! Bang! Rumble! A man and a beast collided crazily in the air. The deafening rumbles were like thunder, resounding through the heavens and earth. What's going on? He's actually fighting with the beasts here. In the distance, a figure flew across the sky and landed on a nearby mountain peak. It was Lu Zheng. He raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang and Lei Bao with suspicion in his eyes. But gradually, a trace of surprise appeared on Lu Zheng's face. Back in the Black Dragon Pool, he had fought with Qin Feiyang, so he knew better than anyone the strength and power of Qin Feiyang's physical body. The power of that punch was enough to seriously injure any human or beast of the same realm. But at this moment, Lei Bao's physical fitness was actually comparable to Qin Feiyang. Not bad. Lu Zheng nodded in appreciation. However, Lei Bao's heart was not so calm at this moment. Although it suppressed its cultivation, everyone knew that the body of a ferocious beast was naturally stronger than that of a human. But it could not suppress the other party. It could not figure it out. How could this human's physical body be so terrifying? On the other hand, Qin Feiyang. The more he fought, the braver he became. He was unstoppable. Every punch he threw out contained his peak strength, causing the void to distort. Gradually, Lei Bao found that it was a little difficult to resist. Crack! Qin Feiyang clenched his 5 fingers, and the power in his body surged out along his arm and condensed on his fist. Not only are you stupid, but you also have no eyesight. You deliberately chose to provoke me when I'm in a bad mood. He smirked and threw a punch forward. The rift within 100 li began to twist. In a bad mood? Lu Zheng was stunned. Shouldn't he be happy to get the Tree of Creation and the ancient pagoda, as well as a large number of subordinates? Why was his mood not good? At that time, in order to avoid Wang Jin, he turned around and slipped away. Then, he wandered around the ancient pagoda alone. Not long ago, when Qin Feiyang summoned Wang Yangfeng and the more than 2,000 combat emperors, he was very far away at that time and did not hear it. So until now, he still did not know that Qin Feiyang's mother had been kidnapped by the state preceptor. Then do you know that I'm not in a good mood right now? Lei Bao confronted him head-on. Its fan-like claws blasted toward Qin Feiyang's fist. Boom! A deafening explosion erupted in the sky, shaking the entire area. Puff! Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered back. But at the same time, Lei Bao's claws were shattered. His flesh and blood splattered everywhere. His huge body flew out like a meteorite. How is this possible? After fighting for so long, my strength has become weaker and weaker. But his strength is the same as before. There is no change at all. No. There is a change, but he has become stronger. Lei Bao's eyes were filled with disbelief. Could it be that the more he fought, the stronger he became? Boom! Qin Feiyang stabilized his body and looked up at Lei Bao. His sharp eyes were like blades. Lei Bao could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Next, your mood will be even worse. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Like a divine rainbow, he rushed out. His aura surged and shook the mountains and rivers. What a terrifying human. He doesn't know fatigue, he doesn't know pain. He is simply a fighting machine, Lei Bao murmured. A terrifying glint appeared in his eyes. Boom! It forcefully stabilized its body that was flying backward. Then, it stepped on the void with all 4 of its limbs and rushed toward Qin Feiyang like an arrow. In an instant, a man and a beast collided. But before the collision, Lei Bao's body surged with a dazzling power of thunder and lightning. Qin Feiyang was blasted away on the spot. His arm was bleeding and his flesh was torn. Even his bones were exposed. Despicable! Lu Zheng cursed in his heart. Lei Bao looked coldly at Qin Feiyang and said, "Before the battle, I did not say that you are not allowed to use battle qi." After saying that, he smiled coldly and bared his fangs. Once again, he charged toward Qin Feiyang. He wanted to take advantage of the victory to pursue. But he had obviously underestimated Qin Feiyang. As long as he suppressed his cultivation realm, no matter what he did, he would not be a match for Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang took a step forward, causing the void to distort. After stabilizing his body, he raised his arm and slammed his palm into the air. Crash! A dazzling golden light swept through the sky like a tide and rushed toward Lei Bao. Lei Bao did not dodge and crashed into it. Aoo! At that moment, it let out a painful scream. Blood flowed from its head and instantly dyed its entire body red. Then, like a cannonball, it crashed into the ground below, creating a deep pit. Swish! Qin Feiyang chased after it like lightning. His index finger pointed in the air. An invisible force roared out, tearing open Lei Bao's lower abdomen and entering his qi. Roar! The pain of his qi being torn apart made Lei Bao unable to help but let out a pig-like howl again. Qin Feiyang lowered his arm and stepped on Lei Bao's head. Boom! Lei Bao's entire head sank into the ground. Qin Feiyang sneered, "The moment you suppressed your cultivation realm, your defeat was already destined." "I refuse to accept this," Lei Bao roared. "You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.